up and going. So hold on, if you will, while I do that work on my other camera. So bear with me. I think you can already kind of see the first topic we're going to have, which is on the monitor behind me. But hang on, I'm going to get everything else going, and I'll be with you momentarily for this somewhat later live. I'm trying to start having some of my lives a little earlier in the evening, but had a little bit of business today, so this one is going to be a little bit later. So give me a minute to get everything up and running, and we should be talking momentarily. Four topics today. So we got four things I want to run by you. As you know, the live stream normally narrows down somewhat, but we're going to start off. We got four topics, so bigger show, but we'll see how it narrows down. So give me a minute to finish entering this information on the other platforms so that I can have all of the streams going, and we should be up momentarily. Oops. I don't know what I just hit there, but I don't want to do that. Okay. So getting this going here. Make sure I put in not for children. P. Diddy, is that you? I wish. No, I don't wish. No, I don't wish. P. Diddy probably never getting out of prison. I don't want to be P. Diddy. But I'll take his money. I'll certainly take his money because they're not going to take all of it from him. Last I heard, P. Diddy was worth $1 billion. So, but no, we don't want to be P. Diddy at this point. He is the butt of jokes worldwide. Let's see here. By the way, I don't. Do I look like P. Diddy? Really? No, no, I don't. Okay, all right. I've been. Listen, when you're a big black bald-headed man, you're going to be, particularly by people that are not big black and bald-headed, you're going to be referred to as looking like every big black popular bald-headed man from Shaquille O'Neal to what was the guy named in the Green Mile? I get all of those folks because it's generally people who are white that are saying that, but I don't mind. But let me go ahead. But P. Diddy, it's the first time I ever got P. Diddy. I don't think I've ever gotten P. Diddy before. Okay, I think we guess just about got everything going so I can go live. I'm having a private chat with you guys on this bullshit. Let me go ahead and see if I can get the whole live stream going so we can make the program start. Three, two, and one. Okay, looks like both of our streams are going. I'll go ahead and start up in three, two, one. What up, folks? Once again, it is indeed your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. Just want to start out before I continue the program. Let me make it clear, I don't generally block, ban, or censor anyone. I'm all about free speech. So understand I do not believe in block, banning, or censoring anybody. But just to point out, because I'm not going to block, ban, or censor him now, but ABC, ABQ in the comments, eager to type the N word. I'm not going to block you just yet. If you keep doing it, I'm going to have to go ahead and block you. Obviously, you want to do some racist shit. You know, like I said, if the platform lets you speak, damn it, so will I. So I'm not about block, banning, and censoring. But if that's the only purpose you're here is to type some racist shit, then you're going to probably force my hand. I'll leave you here for now because I'm all about free speech. But if all you are is about racism, then we'll go ahead and continue. Anyway, so today's program, we're going to get into the whole notion of the program. A host of topics here. Didn't expect to go this far with it, but nevertheless, number one, you see on the monitor behind me, I got a hell of a lot of folks pushing back, particularly MAGA. Not only pushing back, let me make sure I got everything going here with I want to put this on Wi-Fi, but not only pushing back, but to some degree, somewhat angry at the notion that folks are suggesting that this individual on the monitor behind me or anyone else like him did not get due process. And by the way, Goku, appreciate the support. Thank you very much, Goku. A lot of folks are getting upset. I'm talking folks on the right. I'm talking generally not only Trump's, not only Republicans, but my beloved MAGA. My beloved MAGA. I always enjoy talking to MAGA. Big dog, yeah! Thank you for the hat and mustache. But folks are getting somewhat upset at the suggestion that Abrego Garcia or any of the other undocumented or illegal immigrants did not get due process. In fact, people are suggesting that they did. Abrego Garcia, they're suggesting that he did get due process. So what I want to ask for right off the bat, what is due process in your opinion? For folks who are suggesting that he didn't get it or that he did get due process, what is the definition of that? Now we got definitions of it. And by the way, do you believe an immigrant that's in this country undocumented or even outright illegally should get due process? Should they have rights to anything? Should there be any rights whatsoever? Let's say, for instance, somebody has ran across the Rio Grande and they are in this country 100% illegally. Should they have any rights at all? We're going to discuss that because, like I stated, people are constantly suggesting that this man got due process, and they're tired of hearing liberals suggest otherwise. They're pissed off that liberals are suggesting otherwise. So I do want to talk about that. Also, in addition to that, and by the way, in regards to this due process thing, just looking at my notes, if he got due process, why is he in prison for no convictions? How did he end up with no charges, no criminal convictions? How did he end up in a maximum security prison? I don't know if you can have that happen while also getting due process. We'll talk about it. Next, the World Cup is coming to America, 2026. The World Cup is coming to this country. We will be hosting the World Cup. I did a video on this earlier. With so many folks being stopped at the border that have a legal right of entry, whether it is immigrants that live here with green cards, whether it is citizens of other countries that are literally coming here to visit, coming on a visitor's visa, folks with money to spend. We're talking Canadians, German, French, folks that have no intention of living in America. They're just coming here to go to Disney World, go to Vegas, go to the World Cup, being actually detained by ICE, detained by Homeland Security. Asking an obvious question, with the World Cup being hosted here, would you risk coming to America knowing that the likelihood of you possibly being detained for even some of the most mundane shit, like maybe not filling out your visa right, or whatever you got to declare, if everything is not perfect, people are being detained, and in some cases days if not weeks. Would you come to America right now to watch athletes from your country in the World Cup? Would you feel comfortable doing that right now with the world seeing what's going on? And keep in mind, we're not just deporting illegal immigrants bitching about not having due process rights. It's happening to American citizens as well. So this is not something that's just happening to folks who have no damn reason to be here. It's also happening to American citizens. And before we continue on, I'll give you email. He says give you an example of what we're talking about here. The email, Tom France says when he first got the email, he honestly thought it was spam, but decided to look into it. And that's when he realized he could be in serious danger of being deported.
Do not attempt to remain in the United States. The federal government will find you.
Nina resident Tom France says he received this email from the Department of Homeland Security last Friday.
It's like spam.
You thought it was spam?
Yeah, I thought it was spam.
Which said he would be deported after the DHS said they, quote, exercised its discretion to terminate France's parole. But France isn't on parole. He never committed any crime. In fact, he was born in Pennsylvania and has been a U.S. citizen his entire life.
You hear about people being deported routinely in the news now. What if that were me? What would I do? Well, that email prompted me into that mode right away. What would I do?
France says he's now spent the past 7 days working with Senator Tammy Baldwin and the Department of Homeland Security to make sure they both know he's here legally.
If by chance this was, a mistake that compounded and there were people knocking at the door saying, you haven't left the country. You were supposed to leave the.
Now, folks in the comments, I want to say this right back, because folks in the comments are suggesting this guy should leave. He's born in Pennsylvania. He looks to be about 60 years of age. He's been living in America his whole life. He was literally born in Pennsylvania. His parents are American citizens. Why are folks telling him to leave? Have we begun to hate ourselves? Why are folks suggesting that he should leave the country? And by the way, why the hell did he receive a notice telling him to leave? This guy is the average everyday Caucasian male that lives in America. Why are folks suggesting he should leave his own country? So I do want to talk about that, but I want to give you another one. And I think this is even more interesting, and I'll certainly entertain your comments. But in the comments real quick, Will G says, it's the beauty of America. Immigrants have rights no other country will give them, especially when the Lady Liberty literally says, bring the tired, hungry, downtrodden. Yeah, bring us your tired, your weary, your poor. I don't think MAGA intends to entertain that. In fact, MAGA may scratch that statement out on the side of Lady Liberty. I don't think MAGA wants that at all, but maybe I'm wrong. But I want you to hear one, another case that I think that is even more egregious, and I want you to hear this. Now, remember, we went from talking about Abrego Garcia, the one that's in the El Salvadoran prison, to we went from him to an American citizen. So understand, they're not just threatening to kick out illegal immigrants. Citizens and folks with green cards and 100% legal right to be here are also getting involved in this. But I want you to check this one out.
Cool.
Assuming my equipment works right here.
Flying home to Colorado from overseas, has been detained by federal agents on a layover in Chicago. 24 hours later, his family isn't certain where he is or if he's coming home. As the Trump administration cracks down on immigrants, even those with legal permission to live in the U.S., immigration agents say this situation should serve as a warning.
A shock. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to go straight through. He had a 2-hour layover. We didn't think that there was going to be any problem.
Jennifer James got a call yesterday that her husband, Suleiman Young, had been detained at O'Hare. Young, a lawful permanent resident of the United States, had been visiting his family in the Gambia for the first time in 2 decades. He lives in Aurora with his wife and 3-month-old son, works as a youth soccer coach. James says a customs officer told her that the system flagged her husband's 2009 misdemeanor marijuana possession charge, which was dismissed. We should note, Young also pled guilty to felony trespass in 2003. But his wife says since then, his green card had been renewed. He wasn't told to leave in the 15, 20 years since those court cases. So Young, his family, and his friends thought he was okay to stay and to travel.
Seeing that he's been in the country for 25 years, we didn't think that there was a problem. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I kept on asking questions. This doesn't make sense. Make it make sense.
So what do you think? Now this guy is an immigrant. He has a green card, but there are some things to discuss here. There's going to be some things to push back. You're not going to be able to see this on my screen very well, but this is his United States of America permanent resident card. Now this card here shows that he has been a resident of America since November 21st, 1999. So 26 years coming up. Now, you heard the reporter state that he's had 2 run-ins with the law. So, immigrant, if you have a run-in with the law, people think that, you didn't come over here and obey the law, so your ass needs to go. But his run-ins with the law, the dates are what's in question. First of all, he actually pled guilty to a marijuana possession charge in 2009. So that is 14, 16 years, is it right? Let me get my math right. 16 years ago. So 16 years ago, and that caused him to be flagged. That caused him to be flagged and held by immigration. You heard him say he went back to his home country of Gambia, and he had not been back in 20 years. So he decided to go visit Gambia. And when he came back to America, the fact that he had a criminal history for a 2009 marijuana possession caused him to get flagged. 16 years back, that was enough. So understand they're getting people for, it doesn't matter how minor it is. But this guy also, they also stated that he pled guilty to a felony trespassing. 2003, 23 years ago. So those are the two things that are on his record. He's been here since 99. He pled guilty to felony trespassing. Who knows what that may be? But he pled guilty to felony trespassing in 2003. And he has a marijuana possession charge from 2009. And he traveled internationally. And those two things caused him to get flagged in 2025. So I'm going to say, I made a video about this, but I'm going to say certainly his name is Yang Suleiman. I can't, the pronunciation may be off, but I'll just go ahead and spell his surname. His last name is Nyang. First name is Sulayman. Suleiman Yang. And you heard the reporter pronounce it. So for somebody in the comments asked what was his name. But he's been in the country since 1999. Well, he's had residency since 99. So who knows how long it took to get residency. So he's been over here for a long ass time. As they stated, he hasn't been to Gambia for 2 decades. And when he went back, he came back to America and they held him because of his marijuana possession charge from 2009. So remember, we were talking about rapists and murderers. We went well off the beaten path from rapists and murderers when we're getting folks for marijuana possession charges from 16 years ago. Just wanted to point that out. I want to give you another topic we're going to be talking about. Major Boo says, I think this is a sign of, oh shit. Now people can't make up some excuse. What about coming in people who slid underneath the cracks can't do it anymore? This guy is not sliding under the cracks at all, though. Look, if Trump wants to make it so that you have to come here legally as opposed to coming illegally, I don't think that's a bad thing to do. I think Trump securing the border is something that the country needed. Most folks agree that Biden wasn't doing a good job securing the border. But does this count as securing the border? Going after people for charges that are, a decade and a half back? So we'll talk about that. Sadly, this says Will G says MAGA. Sadly, MAGA is so not shit that those same words helped their ancestors get here. There is a fact about that. Without those words, they wouldn't be here themselves. That's to bring your tired, your weary, your poor on the side of the Statue of Liberty. That is true. That is 100% true. But I want to continue on. And by the way, the white guy I showed you from Pennsylvania, this black male from Gambia are not the, obviously if you can find cases like this, it's happening to other people, but this is what we're dealing with now.
Don't leave, the federal government will find me.
Please deport the United States immediately. Those are the words Arizona immigration attorney Pamela Riolas Said got in her email last week. The problem? Riolas Said is a US-born citizen.
So it came from the domain at cbp.dhs.gov. So able to verify that that's from the government domain where, as an immigration attorney, I've seen plenty of emails using that domain before. I think there was maybe some recklessness or some indiscretion in how these emails were sent out.
She's now concerned as to how this happened and worries if it happened to her, it could certainly happen to others who are less knowledgeable about their legal status.
So most of my clients are actually just seeking protection from their home country, whether...
Now, real quick, they sent this to an immigration attorney and told her she needs to get out. And I got other ones in here. I'm not going to play all of these because I got a bunch of these, but I got another attorney that received one of these letters as well. How is this happening? If we're looking for rapists, murderers, and bad hombres, how is this happening? That's everybody I played. 2 of them have been Americans. 1 of them has been somebody with permanent residency. None of these folks fall in the category as bad hombres. Why are they being told to get the hell up out of the country? Certainly the ones that are, 100% American citizens. What the hell is happening? Major Blue says Colorado is a very racist state. Didn't know that. And a very liberal state. Wait, you said Colorado is a very racist state and very liberal state, sanctuary state. That's the damn people with the state okay. I don't get where you're going with that. You're saying that Colorado's a racist state. I wasn't aware of that. I do know it's liberal as of late, and it is a sanctuary state. I'm aware of all of that. But you said that's the damn people with the state okay. I don't understand that last part. MAGA says Great Britain and Canada will take immigrants, but what the fuck do you think Trump is currently trying to do? Literally playing Game of Thrones. And that's what we're going to talk about in regards to the due process. Let me move on so I can start taking calls. But I do want to also point out, this is a side topic. I don't know how deep we'll get into it. But once again, Pete Hegseth is in the news. Some folks are suggesting this guy fits the narrative of a DEI hire. Apparently, he was on Signal. We talked about this before in previous lives, giving war plans away or discussing them in an unsecure environment. Well, it turns out that his brother, his wife, and his attorney had access to all sorts of battle plans that were actively taking place. How did he get this job? How did he qualify for this? Over, I believe it was an African-American general at 4-star. He was the DEI, and Hegseth gets the gig. How many of you folks, by way of yes or no, I know I have a hell of a lot of MAGA watching the program as well. I appreciate MAGA being here. I enjoy talking to MAGA. But by way of yes or no, how many of you folks believe that Hegseth has the merit to be the head of the Department of Defense? How many of you folks believe he's the right man for the job? Pete Hegseth, by way of yes or no. He's on a unsecured app discussing war plans while they're actively happening. Wow. And keep in mind, let's just be clear, because the next question I'm going to ask is in regards to trolling. I see some folks saying yes, but it looks like most of you guys. Hegseth, yes, he's slipping with text though, says 8 weeks. All right, fair enough. And one individual said obviously no. Well, no, there's a lot of folks that are saying yes. Majin Boo says 100%. 100%. All right, Majin. Okay, I want to ask this last question before I start taking callers, because it also is going to go under the notion of trolling. And I'll tie it into Pete Hegseth when I complete this monologue here. Today there was another plane, another catastrophe avoided. A Delta Airlines passenger jet caught on fire, and the people come jumping off the slides and off the wings and all of that shit. There's no denying that if you watch the news even a little bit, you've noticed the uptick in aircraft that are crashing and having all sorts of mishaps all over this country. Right in the middle of, what was his name? Elon Musk firing officials from the FAA. Now, the Trump administration are saying the folks they fired have nothing to do with air traffic control. But fact is, a lot of planes are having problems in this country right now. Why the hell did I mention trolling? Well, let's just be clear. If this was happening under Biden's presidency, Obama or Kamala Harris, you think Trump would be somehow blaming the administration for all the plane crashes, all of the plane mishaps? Do you think that the Republicans would be blaming the head of the Liberal Party for all of this mishap? Because the Democrats are not really blaming the Republicans for this. We're talking about trolling. Same thing with Pete Hegseth. Regardless of how you feel about Hegseth, if Hegseth was operating as a Democrat under the Biden administration, what are the chances that Trump would be trolling the hell out of that guy as somebody who did not deserve the position? I'm asking from a simple standpoint of, are the Democrats just not as good at throwing around shit as the Republicans are? We know that Trump would be all over this. If the planes were going down under the Democrats, if the Democrats appointed anyone, I don't care if it's a person of color so you could yell out DEI, or even a white guy. Let's say Tim Walz was the head of the Department of Defense and he was on Signal and doing all this other shit. What are the chances the Republicans would be a hell of a lot more vocal and trolling the hell out of these people? Because the Democrats are not really doing that. They're going around talking about stop the oligarchy and shit like that. So I do want to talk to you about that, folks. So anyway, you know how the program is ran. Those are our topics for this evening. Quite a bit of topics. We don't normally have that many, but nevertheless, here we are. It is your boy Tim, the handsome liberal. We're going to go straight to the box. You know how the program is ran. We don't block, ban, or censor any damn body. So you don't have to agree with the host. You don't have to agree with anybody in the comment section. You can be critical of whoever you want on this program because that's how free speech works. We don't block, ban, or censor. We go left of Bernie Sanders to I'm having dinner with Q. Last but not least, if you do enjoy civilized dialogue from all sides of the aisle without any concern of the host trying to dictate how you should think, you're in the right place. I'm going to ask that you follow the program if you're on TikTok, Instagram, and a subscription on YouTube, if you will. Major Boo says, this is what happens when you give all the money to immigration into migrants and not putting funding into our aircraft companies. This is the outcome. This is the kind of bullshit that happens. I don't recall those two things being connected like that. You're suggesting that the Biden administration took money from the FAA to spend on immigrants? I can't deny what you're saying, but I haven't heard that. Snowfall, thank you for the super chat. I wouldn't be surprised, Tim, if they flagged people by name like they did to black names during the interview process. That's a great point. That I read a study the other day where they said that's still happening. That if you got an ethnic sounding name, your chance of getting called into an interview is significantly less. That is still happening. And that happened during civil rights, that happened during affirmative action, during DEI. Imagine if you roll some of those programs back. Going straight to the box, rather. We'll start the program out with the one and only Gangsta Grandma. Good evening or welcome to the program, Gangsta. Make sure.
Pookie with your bald-headed ass. What you doing tonight, Pookie?
I'm just talking to you, baby. I'm trying to keep it civil. Talking to you. So we're talking about the fact that we got planes dropping out of the sky all over the damn place, and the Democrats are not blaming. That's why
my fat ass ain't flying nowhere, honey. God did not give me no damn bird wings. Fuck that. Trump made our damn things dangerous. He took DEI away.
So you do believe that some of these mishaps, the Trump administration has something to do with it?
Hell yeah! Oh my God, DEI. And motherfuckers, look, I'm planning to drop it. Because we had experienced motherfuckers up in it, now we don't got them. We don't got them now. Things are flow. Hell no, not my fat ass. I ain't going on no plane.
Why? Now, even though you're putting it on the Trump administration, why do you think there's not more folks doing that? I mean, most folks are not blaming Trump. And as I asked in the comment section,
they're special. MAGA would never blame Trump. MAGA would never blame. Have you noticed in Biden's administration, we didn't have no things coming out of the sky and stuff. We didn't have that. No, we did not. We had a full staff. Now, they don't got full staff over there. Now look at the shit. They just flying out of their sky. The engines are blowing up. Yep.
Now you're mentioning MAGA. I'm talking about the liberals. Even the liberals are not blaming Trump to any significant degree.
You don't know that. Well, you know what? We're so fucked. This whole country's so fucked up that what are we gonna fight on? The planes dropping? Are we gonna fight? Are we gonna fight getting people deported? You know what I mean? No due process. We have so much we have to fight for. What else do you want from us?
Well,
golly, you're draining us.
Well, when you talk about when you talk about immigrants being deported without due process, I'm getting a hell of a lot of MAGA that's saying you're wrong, and this man did get due process.
I'm always wrong compared to the white tea people. To the maggots, I'm always wrong there. They wanna kiss their ring. They sucking hard down there. You feel what I'm saying?
Jesus Christ. Jeez, what? Well, let me ask you. I hear your point about kissing rings and sucking things, but why do you believe that MAGA has such a different opinion on this? MAGA does believe that Abrego got due process. Why is their opinion so different?
He didn't get due process. See, that's how the idiots are. They believe anything. You know what? Let me tell you something. A good man died today, and he stood up against them. A good man died. The Pope. He died. But he went against them. One man went against them and told them where to fucking go. That man followed Jesus Christ like that. These two idiots in the back, they ain't follow shit. No.
Didn't Trump give a speech on Easter or whatever suggesting that he was indeed a devout Christian though?
He said what?
I believe
he did it.
Yeah, I believe Trump did.
He's not no damn. That man is not a Christian. When you could do things to the immigrants and you could not give us our right to take people's rights, you are not no Christian. Hell no, you ain't no Christian. He's not. I can tell you this. He's a Christian nationalist. Those are two different things. You ain't getting me. Nope.
Well,
a real Christian wouldn't vote for him.
So a real
Christian wouldn't vote for him.
What are you trying to say? Trump doesn't believe in God or something?
He probably thinks he's God. Honest to God, he's so like all into his stuff. He probably thinks he's the orange Jesus, the orange orangutan. I shouldn't even call him a damn orangutan. Orangutans are cuter than he is. But he's a white tea nationalist.
You always.
There's a difference.
Let
me tell you something. There's a difference between a Christian nationalist and a Christian. A Christian like me, I am religious, and we believe that we're all God's children, and we're not supposed to fear hate. We're not supposed to throw the Bible in people's faces. You feel what I'm saying? But unfortunately, you get the white tea Christian nationalists that throw the shit in people's faces, that tells you that you're going to hell if you kiss somebody else, but yet,
But I get what you're talking about in reference to God's children and things like that, but shouldn't God's children enter our country legally?
That's not what God is saying. You know what I heard about a Christian nationalist? You know what a Christian nationalist said? They will deport Jesus for God's sake. If God did not come incorrectly, they would deport his ass for God. They'll deport God. Hallelujah. Are you fucking serious? You're going to deport God?
That's liberal trolling. The right would not.
No. I see. I'm not trolling. I'm telling the damn truth. This little old white tea woman with a MAGA hat said, if Jesus didn't come in here legit, he should go back.
Well, then I have to ask the obvious question: if Jesus entered our country illegally, and we have laws, he should be sent back, correct?
No! Are you fucking serious? God had no borders. You're not a Christian, are you? You didn't read the Bible. No. God had no borders. God said, come as you are. God said, you feed the poor. God said that you're supposed to do unto others as you want them done unto you. What the hell?
Well, God
did not say, don't send the black and brown people back to God knows where else without due process. God did not say that. God said you follow the rules, right? God said that, right?
Yeah.
Due process is in our Constitution. It's in our Constitution. See, the white nationalists don't want to do all that. They don't want to follow the Constitution. They don't want to follow the laws. They want to follow the white tea man. They want to follow I can't say his name.
But wait a minute. In regards to
God doesn't have no borders, really. They don't.
But in regards to following the Constitution that you're bringing up, if a person enters this country and they are here 100% illegally, do they have rights? I mean, I've asked this in the comments. Do you believe
under the Constitution they have rights? They do. All people that is on this land, they have due process, and it's the truth. They do. I mean, the white tea man, the white nationalists, I don't give a damn if they don't like it or not. They sorry asses have due process. Did they not have due process for the rapist after in office? He got his due process right. He sure did.
Well, he wasn't convicted of grape, so you can't call him a rapist.
S.A., sweetheart, S.A. He put fingers in her vajayjay. That is considered grape.
He wasn't convicted of that, so he's not.
He was convicted in a civil.
No,
not criminal, but civil. No, don't get that shit fucking twisted.
You don't get convicted in civil court. You're found liable, which is financial.
Well, liable. He got it.
Okay,
he got it.
So
he put fingers in her twat and then got it. Yep, sure did.
So officially, in terms of a criminal record, Trump is not a rapist.
Technically, because after that shit happened, the laws changed on anything that goes in the vajayjay. is great.
Well, it doesn't matter from that standpoint because we're talking statute of limitations. When E. Jean Carroll's case came about,
I don't give a fuck if he has a statute of limitations. That motherfucker put fingers in her for JJ. That's a rapist, okay? And if you stand with that, then you're a piece of shit too.
well, it's not that I'm standing with it, but some might argue, why does she wait 30 years to say anything?
Have you ever been raped?
No.
Have you ever been raped? Because I have. It's not so easy to go into the authorities and say, I've been raped, okay? I'm a survivor of it. It's not easy. They don't believe us. Look what they did to her. They dragged her to hell and back.
So why would you look
They
at?
don't believe us. They don't believe us.
Why would you look at a real estate mogul like Trump, who's incredibly wealthy, and say, they're not going to believe? Hold on. When this happened, Trump was a multi-millionaire. He was a real estate mogul. She looked at him, according to you, back in the 80s and said, they're not going to believe me. So then you wait till he's president of the United States, worth infinitely more wealth, and you say, well, they're going to believe me now? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it still does because it's her word. I believe her. I do. I believe her. And the jury believed her too. It's just a statute of limitations. This sucks, but we have to have statute of limitation on rape. When they know damn well that a lot of women don't want to come forward because of this shit.
Is it?
There's a white, powerful people out there to stop it.
Okay, standing on the MAGA side of this discussion, I'm going to ask you this. Is it possible that maybe E. Jean Carroll possibly saw a way to defame Trump and get a large payday and just went for it?
No, because she had, okay, let me tell you something. If you was innocent, you would take a DNA test, right? You would take the DNA test, right? If you was so innocent, I know I would take that DNA test. If my viewers, if my biological, shit, if I was a man and that little, the protein was not on that dress, I would have took it. I would have took the DNA test. Guess what? He didn't want to take the damn DNA test. He denied it. He didn't want to take it. Why would you want to take it?
Well,
why would you want to take it?
To answer, that's an easy question to answer. Why would he want to take a DNA test? Perhaps that's what his lawyer advised him not to do. As a client,
a guilty man wouldn't take it. A person that was innocent, they would take it. I'll clear my fucking name. I don't want to be clear my name.
Well, we don't know what his lawyer advised him to do. Maybe he had a bad lawyer, but if your lawyer tells you...
But guess what? His lawyer didn't help him because he got found guilty. Well, liable. And then so what is your excuse for the 34-count felonies? What's your excuse for that?
Well, I'm being told that 34 counts, most of those felonies, particularly the ones by Letitia James, were a witch hunt, and if he wasn't running for president, that stuff would have never happened. Alvin Bragg.
But if we did the shit, if Obama did the shit, if Biden did the shit, well, he'll be underneath the fucking jail. Give me a fucking break. The MAGA way just kissing it. Mm-hmm.
Well, I gotta agree with the MAGA side on this because I do believe that if Trump was not running for president,
you ain't shit of a fucking man.
Hold on, wait a minute. But you
get a ring too? Are you really? Are you?
No, I'm not talking about E. Jean Carroll. I'm talking about the financial charges.
No, I'm talking about his 34 counts. He knows he did it.
Hear me out.
I can't even call you a liberal. You are really like a fucking raccoon for real.
It's crazy you would say that. I got MAGA in the comments on YouTube telling me how I've lost respect with them. I'm too far to the left. But I wanna say this.
Honey, I don't know what the fuck you is, because you ain't one of us, honey. Because if you over there bobbing like Mary, bobbing like on that ring, honey, you're going to deep the balls off. For what? He knows he did that 34 count. You know it damn too, but you just riding on it.
Hold on. Hold on, gangster. I didn't say he was innocent. What I'm saying when I said a witch hunt is, if Trump was not running for president, if he was not trying to seek the nation's highest office at the time those charges came out, if he was not such a...
They've been doing it.
Hold on. You're not letting me respond. If Trump was not the arrogant, egotistical guy he is attacking folks, them charges would not have happened. There are other businessmen...
That's not true. They had evidence, and damn it, they got it too. People have to bow down and get it up That's why he lost 20 pounds.
We're not disagreeing, gangster. I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying. I'm not saying Trump is innocent. You seem to think I'm saying he's innocent. What I am saying is, just like with Hunter Biden is another perfect case of a president's son that was trying to get paid.
Here we go with Hunter Biden.
Hold on. If Hunter Biden, just like Trump, if they were not in play, nobody would give a damn what they did. Both of those folks did something that folks in Washington, in D.C. do all the damn time. But people wanted to defame them because in Hunter Biden's case, his dad was running for president, and in Trump's case, he was running for president. If Trump, the businessman, did all of the same shit he did and was never running for president, those charges would not have happened. I'm not saying he's innocent. I'm saying he was only charged because they didn't want him to become president. I'll give you the last word.
That's not true, though, because they was doing it before he ran for president. They was looking at him.
Everybody knew he was running for president, though.
I know that, but they was looking at him before. And he wasn't even running when they was looking at him. So that's what I'm trying to tell you. Quit bowing down to the knees of these fucking fools.
Did you say?
You feel what I'm saying? And let me tell you something else. Let me tell you something. You're supposed to be on the right side of fucking history, not that dark, nasty TY mayonnaise fucking history. Because they're coming for I'm telling you. You just think everybody's joking, right? You just think it. Look what they're doing every fucking damn day. This is like look at the what is that called? The defense team. Look what he did again. Giving our secrets out to his wife and shit.
You talking about Hexef? We covered that.
United States is a fucking shit show right now. We're the laughing stock of the fucking world. Our economy is going down. Our stock market's crashing. And you know what? These tariffs, maggots, all these tariffs gonna bring us in money. No, they're not. No, they're not.
Well, some would suggest that Trump's predecessor, being Joe Biden, wasn't doing well with the economy either. So you're blaming...
Oh, the economy. You know what? Let me tell you about the economy under Joe Biden. This is how special and slow these mofos are. Like, fifth grade level education. You feel what I'm saying? We was doing good. I was making money, Pookie. My fat ass was making money. I opened up 2 dispensaries under Biden. I'm bringing it in. Now... You know, my vegetables are gone up and shit because of this stupid clown and every damn thing else. No, our economy was doing good. It's just a slow, uneducated mofos thinking that, price gouging was the president's fault. And it wasn't. It's the companies.
Well, I'm just going to say that when it came down to running for president, most folks favored Trump's potential for handling the economy over Biden and over Kamala Harris. That's why we have Trump. I got to move it on, though, gangster.
Well, guess what? You know why we got Trump right now? And I had to my final say because I have to go roll me a blunt.
Sure.
You know why we got Donald Trump?
Right.
You know why? Because we have the far leftists, the blue maggots, that thinking, say Palestine, don't vote for her because she was, the G word. Then we had a non-voter because she's not black fucking enough. Yeah, then we have the racists and the triple K. That's why we got this damn clown in the fucking office. So, no, I'm standing on the right side. But we got the far-ass maggots, the non-voters that, she ain't black enough. I don't know what the fuck you can't be black enough for in this damn country. I would have picked the black woman, and we wouldn't have been in this fucking mess. You feel what I'm saying? We wouldn't have been in this damn mess.
I understand,
we
gangster.
Well, I got to go roll me a blunt fucking with you.
Appreciate you coming on, gangster. Thank you very much. She drives a hard bargain. I lost my liberal card doing that conversation. Wow. I wasn't supposed to lose my liberal card, was I? MAGA's already been calling me a libtard the whole program. Papa Onaya Shelley says, ain't it ironic how Spirit Airlines is not having issues? That is ironic that out of all the airlines, Spirit Airlines is not, none of their planes are going down. That is crazy. Handsome non-liberal, says Michael. Why? Listen, I lean left politically, but I'm not so far left that I can't see problems on the left. And I don't find myself getting to a point where I don't give Trump credit if I think he deserves it. So if that makes me lose my liberal card, it is what it is. Advent comment says, yep, should have lost it long ago. I'm losing my liberal card. It's crazy because on TikTok, where I have more liberal viewers, they're accusing me of losing my liberal I'm losing my Democrat card, my liberal card. But when you go on YouTube, where I got more MAGA, they're telling me I'm a demon rat. I don't have a home, folks. I'm a voter with no home. Pete, the DUI hire, not DEI, DUI. Pete, the DUI hire Hegseth, but they just suspended an Army commander for having top 3 chain of command pictures on posts facing backwards on the wall. Wow. Yeah, Pete Hegseth is getting away with shit that might get others jailed, which is why we're asking, is he the right man for the job? We're asking, is he the right man for the job? JDX the Pope. Did JD just meet with the Pope the other day? He says JDX the Pope and Trump will definitely hand pick the next Pope. Can he do that? No, Will, I really hope that doesn't happen. Will G is saying that the next Pope will be handpicked by President Trump. That'll be the furthest, that Pope will be further to the right than any Pope we've ever had. That will be a very far right Pope. But I don't believe Trump. Can Trump even do that? I mean, we've had Trump, we've had lies where people even question whether Trump was Christian at all. Could he pick the Pope? You gotta learn when playing devil's advocate isn't a good idea. Debo, I've thought of that. That last conversation, I was like, the Michael J. Fox Back to the Future, my liberal picture was disappearing. Gangsta Grandma is right. Trump is just living in the flesh. That's not being a true Christian, says Majin Boo. I think Trump is on video saying he was not a Christian, but nevertheless, Fox News, which is an ally of Trump, just yesterday.
Palm Sunday message ahead of Holy Week. He said, and I'm quoting now,
This is Trump just yesterday, Fox News covering this. That sounds like that might be Stuart Varney.
Trump issued a Palm Sunday message ahead of Holy Week. He said, and I'm quoting now, this Holy Week, Melania and I join in prayer with Christians celebrating the crucifixion and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, the living Son of God who conquered death, freed us from sin, and unlocked the gates of heaven for all of humanity. We pray that America will remain a beacon of faith, hope, and freedom for the entire world. And we pray to achieve a future that reflects the truth, beauty, and goodness of Christ's eternal kingdom in heaven. Jonathan Morris, our resident theologian, joins me.
Do you think Trump wrote that? That's pretty nice. Pretty nice. I see the comments. DJ D's immediately say he didn't write that. I'm reading that and thinking that doesn't. I mean, when you look at how it's written, the punctuation, nothing's in caps. Like, this don't look like what we're used to seeing come from Trump's account. I'm just going to tell you, I know now this is where my MAGA side is going to accuse me of being a libtard, but I'm just going to tell you, this doesn't look like some shit Trump would write. It just, the punctuation, like I said, the way it just doesn't fit the narrative of Trump. But here he is stating that he is a Christian from the standpoint of, he believes, what did he say? Jesus Christ, the living Son of God who conquered death and freed us from sin. That's something a Christian would say, that Jesus died for our sins. That's coming from Trump. So I'll leave it up to you whether you believe that is authentically written by the president himself. Going back to the next caller, real quick before I do, Donald J. Trump has been breaking the law for decades, says Entropy Corsi. I believe that. Which I was trying to tell my last call against the grandma and some of my pissed off liberals in the program. I'm not saying Trump is innocent. I believe a lot of business people break the law. Hell, a lot of us even lie on our taxes. We just can tell a lie that doesn't cheat the government out of millions of dollars. But I think most Americans fib on their taxes at least a little bit. But yeah, I'm pretty sure the way Trump is acting as president is kind of following up the success he had as a businessman, whether it is delaying in the courts to beat opponents. That's something he did with Michael Cohen in the business world, and he's using it now as a politician. Chances are, I don't believe that he was following the law to the letter as a businessman, because I don't believe that he's following the law to the letter as a politician. He is breaking the law, and it's not something coming from liberals saying that. The judges are saying it. Some of the judges are saying the things he's doing is unconstitutional. So we'll leave it at that. Tim, tell MAGA on YouTube, we will get Tim back. Don't worry, he needs some Kool-Aid. Yeah, yummy. Major Boo said he's going to pull me back to MAGA. Really? Those words are too big for Donald J. Trump's vocabulary. That's the message you see here on the screen. Let me go back to the box. Yeah, and I do agree with you in the comments there, Black Baby Boy. 100% same business tactics. He is using it. I definitely believe the tactics Trump is using as president are effective tactics he was able to get away with as a businessman. But we'll go back to the box. I think that says Hick something. Good evening, welcome to the program. What name is that? Hick Life?
Hick Life. I live way out in the sticks, baby.
Nothing wrong with that. Good evening, welcome to the program. What am I getting wrong? Do you think Trump wrote this message?
Oh, hell no. Hell no. There's no way. First of all, it wasn't put out on Lie Social first.
Oh, so it wasn't put out on his Truth Social.
Yeah. Well, I say it correctly. I also say Fox Entertainment because they aren't news.
Wow.
And the only qualified person Trump ever hired was Stormy Daniels, and she said she had very little to work with.
Oh my God. I thought you living in the Hicks was going to make you be more to the right. You clearly are not a big fan of Trump.
Not even a little bit. I'm 57 or 58, something like that. But no, he's been around forever. He's been a piece of shit forever. He has destroyed more businesses than he ever started, and every business that he ever started failed. Every one.
I'm being told this guy was an incredibly successful businessman. He stated himself he was worth $15 billion when he ran for office in 2015.
If he would have left this money, if he would have left the money alone that he was given by Daddy, he would have about $8 billion right now. The only money he ever made was money he stole.
You really think he's that low, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. The Omaha Oracle. What's his name?
Omaha Oracle. I don't know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's one of the best investors in the country.
Okay.
Anyway, he laughs right in Trump's face. How much do you have again? You know, and Trump will tell him, and he's like, yeah, maybe you ought to round that down a bit because you know you're wrong on that. Oh, yeah, he hates Trump.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, as long as
and a con man.
Yeah, but the thing about it is, now that Trump has Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos of Amazon, and Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, at least them three are on his team. Not to mention others like the CEO of Apple.
Of course they're on his team. He just let Elon go in, get all of the patents of his competition. They didn't save any money. He had no competence when it came to deciding who should be cut and who shouldn't. I mean, he has no wherewithal to even be involved in what he was involved in.
Yeah, but the point I'm making though is with Trump associating with these gazillionaires, despite his business dealings before he became president, he's probably wealthier now because he's probably finding ways to get money from them folks via crypto.
Well,
maybe.
Absolutely. He allowed them to buy the presidency for $277 million. And he let Elon have access to all the things that he wanted. Elon kicked out Verizon and put in Starlink.
Yeah.
What the hell? Tell me that's not a conflict of interest.
Yeah. Well, is it possible that maybe Elon's Starlink had more to offer than Verizon? I mean, you're suggesting that Elon purchased the presidency?
Then you allow a third party to make that decision. You don't let the person that owns the company walk in and say, my thing's better than his thing.
Yeah. Well, considering what you're saying, I guess I have one main question to ask. Why is MAGA seeing this differently to you? MAGA loves Elon. MAGA doesn't see any of this purchasing of the presidency that you're mentioning. Why do you see things so differently than MAGA?
Because they are in a cult of personality. There's nothing that Trump can do that they will criticize him on. Okay, you're dealing with a majority of MAGA coming from low education states, and he flat out said it. He loves the poorly educated.
I mean, he did say that, but you should. I mean, do you really think that most MAGA are uneducated?
I think they're poorly educated.
Explain the difference.
Poorly educated, you either weren't paying attention or you had a low income school district, so you got a shitty education, or you were indoctrinated with religious beliefs that go against reality.
So is it safe to assume that you believe liberals on average are more educated than MAGA?
I don't have to believe it because it's actually, there's been studies done and that's the actual fact. Because more people with college degrees tend to vote liberal.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Yet Trump has won, and he's probably one of the most popular presidents in America in our lifetime, even more so than Reagan.
Trump did win, but more people voted against Trump than voted for him.
What do you mean?
That's reality.
Voted against him?
Yes.
What do you mean? Because he won. So if more people...
He won because he got more votes than a woman that had 100 days to campaign.
Right.
But he didn't win by that much. And more people voted third party.
Okay.
Okay. So when you add the Democrat votes and the third party votes, more people voted against him than voted for him.
Well, but he...
So this misnomer that they're saying that there was a mandate by the people. No, there wasn't a fucking mandate.
No, I don't necessarily buy into the mandate, but the man did win the popular vote. So, I mean, a lot of Americans did not favor what Biden was doing on the border, what Biden was doing with the economy. And
Biden wasn't running.
Well, yeah, but that's the problem. When you mentioned that Trump beat a woman that only had 100 days to run, that's because Biden took so damn long to step out.
Okay, so prior to the election, you've been on this app, you've been doing lives forever. The one thing that every MAGA was saying, the reason for voting for Trump was eggs and gas.
Yeah.
Almost every single one of them. And then when he got elected and they realized the eggs and gas isn't coming down, all of a sudden they changed it up. And you started hearing people say the reality that they would not ever vote for a woman.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've heard that. I don't know if that was primarily the reason. I mean, I do believe that in addition to her being a woman, in addition to her being a person of color, she did have some other issues, such as she didn't come across as authentic to many. Some of the questions she answered were poorly. She didn't answer questions poorly, like suggesting that she wouldn't change anything from Biden when she went on The View and said that at a time when Biden was incredibly unpopular. To go on a show like The View, which is a liberal show, and receive a lot, which that question amounted to an underhanded lob, and she missed that pitch and said she would not change anything that Biden did. And for a while, she wasn't taking interviews at all when Trump was on tour, taking interviews from everybody. So she made
Trump is always on tour. He's always on tour.
But that's working,
he had 9 years. He had 9 years to campaign, and he barely beat her.
Yeah. I mean, I don't...
Okay. Now, what he did was he lied about her constantly. So these people that believe him, and they believe him emphatically, they think everything he says is absolutely true, and everything else is just the deep state.
There is plenty of that. There's plenty of that.
He's the one that called her the border czar and said that the border was wide open, which was bullshit. And the only reason that Trump was able to lock the border down was because of COVID that he failed miserably on and deliberately lied to the American people about.
Yeah, but to push back a little bit, I think even a lot of liberals would acknowledge that Biden was not as good at handling the border as Trump. I mean, there was a lot of folks coming to this country. We didn't even know who they were. They could just walk up, claim asylum, and get in. And Biden was not trying to curtail that until well into his presidency.
That's not true. On day one, he put out a border bill that the Republicans shot down. He put out 7 different border bills.
Right, but what about executive order? You see how much Trump is getting accomplished via executive order. If you put out a border bill and a right-wing Congress is not working with you for obvious reasons, they don't want you to succeed, then take the path what Trump has done. Do it by executive order.
What does the border bill need to be effective?
Well, first of all, you can't have people coming in the country claiming asylum and you don't know who the hell they are and you're just sending them willy-nilly into the country and giving them a court date. You could be letting in terrorists, which is what Trump was saying, and that's right. And he made a good point.
Okay. All right, listen to this, though. An EO, an executive order, gives zero funding. None. The president does not have the purse strings, so he can say whatever he wants. The funding has to come through Congress.
Okay.
And if it doesn't, then it's useless. The only way
I think that Trump has done a good job showing that there are ways to go around shit, okay? If Biden does an executive order and Congress pushes back, as you said, they control the purse strings, what is Trump doing? Taking people's federal funding away. He's finding ways to punish folks. Trump is really good at finding ways to get you to come to the table. Biden was not. Okay. Even from this standpoint, just simply go on television and ridicule. Go ahead.
Trump has the House and the Senate and the White House.
Right.
He literally could push through anything that he wants.
When Biden won the first time, he had the Senate. I know that. He didn't have a Congress either.
Senate, but he never had both houses.
Okay. All right.
Okay. But Trump right now has all of them. So he could literally put out a bill, get it through the House and Senate, and he could sign it, and that would be law. An executive order is not law, and it does not provide funding.
I'm trying to think, though. Are you sure the first 2 years?
He may have had the first 2 years.
Okay, then why didn't he do the shit the first 2 years?
Because he was busy working on shit.
Nobody's buying that. Nobody's going to buy the excuses. Really? The point we're making.
PACT Act, infrastructure bill,
border bill.
Multiple things that
people don't want infrastructure. They don't want the CHIPS Act. They want the border secure. You're giving them what they don't want. You hear what they're complaining about.
Okay. The border needed work. And he did put out border bills. The Republicans kept voting them down.
We just came to the conclusion that under his first 2 years, he could have done it without Republican support. He failed on the border. I'm just simply saying.
I would have to look that up to find out what stopped those. But when the Republicans put up a border bill, the Langford bill, that was a Republican.
You're ignoring the fact that he didn't do nothing the first 2 years he had in office when he had the power to do it. I mean, so at least for the first 2 years.
Well, see, you have to realize that there were two Democrats that were not Democrats, and they switched over. They switched to the one.
You talking about Christian Sinema and Joe Manchin?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then there was one other that kept voting with the Republicans. So we had two sheeps in wolves' clothing.
I believe that,
and that stopped a couple of things.
But Christian Sinema and Joe Manchin did vote with Biden on some things, and I don't believe that they would not have voted with Biden on a border bill because they lean more right. They would have voted with Biden on a border bill. He didn't pass one, so that goes down as
something that wasn't in there. If there was something that was in there that they didn't like, then maybe that's what stopped.
Well, the fact is he didn't try, so he gets the blame at the end of the day. He didn't try. So if he had tried and failed, then that's different. He didn't try.
7 bills.
We're talking about the border bill, though. You're giving me everything but what people wanted. They wanted the border bill.
I'm talking 7 border bills in his presidency.
Well, people didn't see that. Whatever the case may be, if you're saying...
No, they don't see it because they listen to numbnuts who wanted to run on the border. Okay?
Well,
he said, yeah, Biden opened it up and let everybody in. Biden did not open it up. The Supreme Court opened it up. The Supreme Court...
Do you really believe really believe that Biden did everything he could to secure the border in his 4 years in office?
Biden tried to keep that Title 42 in place, and the Supreme Court told him, no, you cannot. That's unconstitutional.
That ain't what I'm asking you, though. That's not what I'm asking you. Do you believe that Biden did everything he could to secure the border during his 4 years in office?
I think he would have signed the bill if it would have come through, the Langford bill, but I don't know if he did everything he could. No.
All right, fair enough.
I don't know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough. I do got to move on. I got to move on.
I do know.
Go ahead.
I do know for a fact that the Langford bill, they took out everything that anybody was against and approved the funding for those things separately, Ukraine and Israel.
Yeah.
And it was a clean bill. And Trump called up his buddies.
That's 3 years in, though, Hick life. That's 3 years in. By then, you should have did something.
I get it. But that would have secured the border.
Yeah, but it's 3 years in. By then, it was too late. By then, it was too late. People had already chosen Trump as a better person for the job. You don't come and play Superman now that we got a hero on scene. So that's why that didn't work. But he did do that. I got to move on, Hick life, though.
Okay, you take care, man.
Always a pleasure. Thanks for coming through, man. Appreciate it.
Not a problem.
All right. Now, real quick, I don't normally have to do this, but nature is calling. If you want to hang around for a minute, I'll be right back. Got to answer nature. All right. Start the conversation up with all five of you that decided to hang around. So here we are again. All right, a few of you hung around. I appreciate that. Get my monitor going back. We're going to go right into also discussing this whole due process. But before we do, I'll make sure I didn't miss any comments or super chats here. Will G says, Trump ain't shit. He handpicked everyone else. Won't be surprised if he reaches out to a body at the Vatican. He wants to be emperor of the world. He's too old for that shit, Will. Not to say he may not want to do it, but he's too old for that. You believe that? He says, I won't. He said, Trump handpicked everyone else, which is true. And he doesn't seem to be good at picking folks. Folks believe that Trump is the right man for the job, but the people that he surrounds himself with are often turned into ne'er-do-wells, for lack of a better term. But he says, I wouldn't be surprised if he reaches out to a body at the Vatican. He wants to be emperor of the world. So you two are suggesting that Trump may try to handpick the next pope. Wow. Joe Manchin rule was he couldn't vote yes on a bill unless he got 2 Republicans. So he really was a Democratic version of a rhino. And I agree with that. Him and Christian Sinema. I do. Tulsi Gabbard is another one. she basically was a rhino. I mean, you don't just switch completely over. You don't just switch parties completely like that. I mean, Tulsi Gabbard was a Democrat just a few years ago. The Republican Party is way further to the right than even the Bill Clinton years when the Democrat Party was not as far left as it is now. So for Tulsi Gabbard to be over there, that far to the right, she never was a Democrat. I don't think Tulsi Gabbard ever was a Democrat. DEI equals die, Paul? I don't quite get that. Diversity, inclusion, and delusion. Well, we're talking about Hexa, but I want to go on to back to this whole due process thing because I'm curious to hear from you folks. Folks are suggesting that this man, Abrego Garcia, got due process. I tend to disagree with that from every level, but I want to know why everybody else is saying he did. Mike, good evening.
Because they're delusional and they don't know what the hell they're talking about. Hey, before we get started, tap the screen, share the live. There's 137 people in here.
Thank you.
Let's get Tim up to about 50,000. Wow, we can do that for sure. Shout out to Hick Life. He made me, when he said Hick Life, I felt like I was listening to Tupac.
Yeah, I don't know if I talked to Hick. I don't know if I talked to Hick like before, but if he is on, come on back anytime. I had to get up. Nature was calling. I didn't get a chance to close with him properly. But when he said he was in the sticks, I'm thinking, okay, we got MAGA. This will be a good conversation. But he didn't like Trump at all.
Between Hick Life and Gangsta Grandma, they wore your bladder out, didn't they? You couldn't even hold your urine no more. Yeah, maybe you are MAGA. Because you know Trump can't really hold his. But anyway.
Oh my God. There is no evidence that Trump cannot hold this bladder.
There is no evidence that there's a lot of situations where there's no evidence. So it is what it is. But I'm going to say this, though. We know that he didn't get due process. Every court in the land said he didn't. Right? All the way up to the highest court.
Yeah, I haven't heard anybody in a court of law suggest that he has had due process, but MAGA thinks otherwise.
You know what? And again, we're not going to change MAGA's minds about anything. The bottom line is this. Not only did he did they not give him due process before he left, when he was dealing with the courts here, he went through the court processes every time. He did all the things that he was supposed to do.
Well, here's where they're getting it from. They're suggesting that in 2019, he was ruled to be okay to deport, just not to El Salvador. So they're saying that a court ruled that he had to go, and that alone is his due process because he had his day in court.
My bad. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, that's what I'm saying. They're saying that because the courts told him he had to leave. He had his day in court. He lost. I believe he was trying to get asylum or something like that, and he lost. So he was up for deportation, but he was still in the process of delaying it apparently. But he was up for deportation, and he just had one caveat, which is you can't be deported to El Salvador.
That's not what the court ruling says. Listen, that's what people are saying, but they're not read it. Right? They didn't read it. That's not what the court ruling said.
Okay.
All this, he could have been self-deported. The bottom line is, as a matter of fact, because he went through the courts and he got a withholding of removal awarded, withholding of removal makes it more difficult to deport him than it was if he just had asylum. That's based on the court case. That's not my opinion. That's based on the court filing. Don't shoot the messenger. Okay. So, but listen, they're saying that, Tim, because they want to be right, even if it's wrong. Right? They want to be right so bad they don't care about.
Let me ask it to you this way: if he was still in America, the Trump administration could still legally deport him. He doesn't have a green card. He doesn't have permission to stay here, right?
He didn't do anything, Tim. Don't forget.
He's not here legally. You don't have to do anything. He's not here legally.
He is here legally. He's here. He's here as about as legal as it can get before he becomes a U.S. citizen. He's not here illegally.
Does he have a green card? Does he have a green card?
I don't believe. I don't know.
No, he doesn't have a green card. He doesn't have a green card. He does not have residency. So he is open. The Trump administration can deport him for whatever reason. I mean, he doesn't have any of that.
He has to commit a crime. Listen.
You
The
know,
whole premise of hold on, Tim. The whole premise of this deportation under the Enemies Alien Act was what?
Well, we were in war.
Are we at war?
Trump stated it's an invasion.
I know what he stated. That's what he been stated that before the election, so he could use this as a premise. My question is, are we? That's why the Supreme Court is looking at it right now. Am I right or wrong? Correct me if I'm wrong.
I believe that. Yeah.
They put a stay on it because of that premise. We're not in conflict. We're not. So they're going back to the whole premise of whether he should have been able to invoke the Enemy Aliens Act to begin with, right?
Yeah, and I don't disagree. I think that if Trump had done this from a more tactful position, he could get a lot more of these folks out. I mean, because he could have given Abrego Garcia due process and still got him deported. Let him go before court. Let him explain his whole due process, or his. I think he tried to plead asylum. Let him explain his asylum case, and he would have been denied. I mean, he doesn't. You know, they could argue that he doesn't have the legal grounds by going and getting. What is the name? Bukele is the president of El Salvador. Okay, he's claiming that it's not safe for him to go back to El Salvador. All Trump had to do was get the president of El Salvador to, film a video or something saying that I'll guarantee his protection or whatever. I mean, just make up some shit, even if you don't follow through with it. And he would have lost in court. He would have lost his asylum claim in court. Everyone that's claiming asylum from El Salvador, all Trump has to do is get Bukele to go on camera and say, here's this individual's name, and the government of El Salvador will personally ensure the safety of this individual once he is deported. And that would kill all of their asylum court cases.
But here's the thing, Tim. There was a whole bunch of ifs. He didn't do that. We're having this conversation because he didn't do anything you just said.
Yeah.
He didn't do any of that shit.
I'm just saying, I agree with you. He didn't do it. I'm just simply saying that Trump could have easily gotten Abrego Garcia to be deported if he had just gave a resemblance that he was trying to follow the norms of due process.
Right, but you listen. You've been saying this since we met. Sometimes, why lie when the truth will suffice?
Yeah.
Right,
and this is a perfect case of that. This is a perfect case for that.
And all of them. Everyone that was deported, because we do not know, based on how they're handling this case, that they handle any of them with integrity.
Yeah.
None of it. So
I can't argue with that.
And here's again, and anybody that argues with that, they're showing their racial bigotry, prejudice, bias, or just their love, or just like Hick life, baby, said before I came on. I'm gonna say that every time. I'm gonna say that every time with Hick life, or they're just showing that they're just in this cult of personality, because it doesn't make legal sense. And I literally have the case open in front of me, because when I'm in my office, I can pull this stuff up. Okay. And all I'm saying is, all they had to do is do it the right way, and nobody has an issue with it.
What do they say? What do they say? You can come to the country, just come the right way. You can deport these folks. Just deport them the right way.
Just deport them the right way. But they don't care, Tim. They don't care. And here's the thing. Here's the funny part about this. They're always talking about people doing things the right way. And then we got old Hennessy Hexit again on Signal Chat again. Oh, Hennessy Heck.
With his wife, his lawyer, and his brother. Getting war plans, getting attack plans. I don't understand. I mean, it doesn't look like Trump is going to reprimand him for this to any significant degree at all.
And if anybody comes on your panel and tries to excuse that away, they're not patriots. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about law and order. They don't give a fuck about none of that stuff. They can say whatever they want. They don't care about none of this stuff. Man, is that one of my? That is crazy. Is that E? That's wild. The young lady in the comments, I coached her. That's crazy as shit.
In my comments?
Yes. I coached her in softball.
Oh, wow.
E-Dub. Okay. What's up, E-Dub? That's never happened to me before. That's my baby girl.
Well,
right
I'll
there.
tell you something. I'll tell you something. Not to get too far off topic, but I was on a cruise last year, and I was in Mexico, and an African American gentleman walked up to me and was like, "I don't mean to bother you," he said, "but are you the handsome liver?" I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "I listen to you all the time." He said, "I live in Atlanta." So it's a small world, man. It's a small world. I felt special to have somebody find me like that. Like, really? He's like, "Yeah, I listen to you all the time." I'm like, "Damn." I mean, was in Mexico when he walked up to me and said that.
Well, you lucky. Well, was he affiliated? Because if he was affiliated with anybody and they took a picture, your ass might get deported. Because the point system don't take much.
Well, the problem is, where are you going to send me to? I guess it would have to be El Salvador, because there's no other country.
Care, Tim. They don't care. And so let's talk about what Trump said tonight. He said today, everybody can't get a trial. Did you hear that he said that?
No, I didn't hear it, but I've heard MAGA say it, and that's crazy.
Everybody can't get a trial. Everybody can't get due process. Then what are we talking about? I mean, the irony about him saying that, based on all the court cases he's been through, and he talked about a quote unquote sham trial, but you don't think people don't deserve anything? The irony and the hypocrisy.
But what about the notion that there are millions of folks here undocumented or illegally, and it would be difficult to give them all a trial, and we wouldn't be in this mess if Biden hadn't let them all in here?
Bullshit. And you know what, Tim? The next time, I'm gonna try to make sure. I know you'll be on this later this week. I'm gonna pull up all of this stuff about the border bill. I mean, the border with Biden and everything that happened in the chronological order, because we keep making it seem like he did shit, and that's not true.
Well, let me just say this in regards to that. Here's one thing that I hate when I say this, but I have to give Trump credit for. Trump gets out there and talks to the people, even if he's not being honest. He talks, even if he's not being honest all the time. He talks to the people in a way that makes folks feel like he is relating to you. When Biden was trying to do things that you're alleging he was doing to secure the border, whether they succeed or whether they fail, get out and talk to the damn people. The fact that he didn't talk to the people has hurt him tremendously. I mean, so he should have got out and talked to the people, and then he could have told the people that we would have given you a border bill if it wasn't for Manchin or Sinema or some other Republican politician. That's what Trump would do. That's why people like Trump, because he makes it look like he's trying to get things done, and the only thing stopping it is some of these overzealous liberals. Biden could have done exactly that.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with whether or not the messaging was what it should have been, or I'm not going to argue with that at all. But that doesn't mean that, I know perception becomes reality, but the reality is he did more than he gets credit for. That's number one, for sure. And the irony, though, is there's a lot of things that happened with the border that Trump put in place before he left, too. With all the temporary protected status that he gave the Haitians and then turned around and vilified them. That wasn't the first time he did it.
But once again, like I said, though, you got to get out there and talk to the people, because it's like anything. If only one side is in your ear, you're going to be more likely to believe that one side. If the other side is not stating their case, like you go to court, if you don't show up, the other side wins by default. Biden and the liberals let Trump speak unobstructed for the most part. Even when Biden was in office for 4 years, Trump spoke to the people far more than Biden did. If Biden is too busy running the damn country, then find some people that can speak on your behalf. This guy is totally swaying the entire voting public because you're not talking to people. That hurt Biden bad.
I just don't think that I'm going to be honest. I don't think, and I don't even disagree with you, but I don't think you can track all the, I don't think it's very difficult to track all the lies. I think it's very difficult to track. I mean, it's very difficult because, listen, Trump would get up and lie damn near every day, and the people around him would regurgitate that lie. You got to track all those lies, man. I mean, this shit is crazy to do in the real world. It's just not something that I don't think anyone expected. But what happened with this election, and I'll say this about the election, and we'll just move forward, is I think the country pulled that Band-Aid off, and we saw the underbelly of the racism in this country that people don't want to see. And Trump brought that out. And people want to say it's not a thing. Tell me why domestic T groups have grown since Trump put his face into the public sphere politically, and that's not even debatable.
I don't have I'm able to play devil's advocate on virtually any issue. I don't have an answer for that because that is true. I mean, there's no denying that there's more domestic racial groups walking down streets and shit like that than there was under Obama or even the first Trump term. That has increased significantly. And I do believe it is because a lot of folks do see what's coming out of the White House and they feel comfortable with it. I mean, it's like, well, if he okay with it, we know he got our back. That's the way I'm perceiving it. Maybe I'm wrong, but I look at it as if those groups realize or at least feel like Trump has our back. If something kicks off, he's more likely to be sympathetic towards us or even side with us on some of these issues. So they feel more emboldened to come forward.
Well, and the sad part is they're right. I mean, it's not like they're wrong. They're not wrong. He's going to side with J6ers, but he's going to vilify everyone else that's black or brown. They're not wrong. I mean, Asians, they're not wrong. And they continue to excuse it. Trump has done things that you would not accept from your supervisor at your job. You know what I mean? But they accept it. They accept it, and this is where we are. It's so bad that other countries are targeting his supporters. When we think about that, China's targeting.
Yeah. They're going for red states.
About what I'm saying,
They're
Tim.
going for red states. Yeah, I've heard that.
Right. They're targeting red states. They're targeting him and his supporters for their beliefs. It's not like they're an ally.
But that makes sense. The Chinese know that the only reason they're dealing with the United States as an adversary right now is because of Trump and voters in red states. They know the liberals do not want America to do what America's doing right now. The liberals are not backing this stuff. The liberals don't want terrorists. The liberals don't want China being viewed as an enemy like that. So it makes no sense to really punish the liberals because the liberals are kind of on the side of the Chinese. There are a lot of liberals that are rooting for China to win the tariff war. So they know who their adversaries are, and it's Trump and Trump supporters. So it makes sense that they would target red states.
Yeah, and we're so divided that an adversary would split the baby.
Yep.
Think about that. They're willing to split the baby. People aren't paying attention to the detail of what's going on right now. Pete Hegseth should be gone. Let's just pivot back to that. Pete Hegseth should be completely gone. I don't think he's going to do it. Now we're in and I'll say this and I'll land my plane, I'll let you go. We're in a constitutional crisis right now. What is the Supreme Court going to do? When that case gets moved over to Pam Bondi, is she going to stand down and not do anything? She's risking being disbarred or held in contempt. She's putting her career on the line.
Oh,
right.
She's
putting her career on the line.
My guess is they would probably be willing to sacrifice their career and stand with Trump because Trump's going to have your back. Okay, you lose your damn career, but you're going to be rich for riding with MAGA. Then to defend your career and be on the wrong side of MAGA, which means that everything from your life on down is in danger. So it wouldn't surprise me if Pam Bondi does the same thing everybody from Mike Lindell to Rudolph Giuliani did. They were willing to sacrifice their career to stand with Trump.
But I'm going to tell you who's not going to do it. This is just my personal opinion, and then I'll drop down. Comey Bear is not going to do that.
True.
She's not going to do that. And Roberts isn't going to do that.
Yeah.
They're not going to listen. You got a lifetime appointment at the highest level. They're not going to risk it. So those two right there are going to change how these rulings come down. That's what I think is going to happen.
And that would but Amy Comey Barrett and Justice Roberts, that's kind of giving the liberals a 5-4 victory on a lot of issues now. That I agree with that. I think that in some of these cases, just like with stuff from back in the day, like Plessy versus Ferguson and things like that, some of these folks don't want to go down as a Supreme Court justice that was on the wrong side of history. They just don't want to be part of that group that voted for shit that 100 years later, you're coming up as one of the Supreme Court justices that look like a racist or whatever. I think Amy Comey Barrett is one of those. Clarence Thomas, I don't know what
that tap dancing Stephen Kuhn, Calvin Lovin, man, that he did. And even when him and Alito voted 9-0, they had to come out with their own statement after the fact. It's just But again, let me tell you, the wrong side of history is a real thing, and I think that if the Supreme Court doesn't uphold the Constitution,
it's over.
Because of it's over with.
It's over.
It's over with.
It's over.
It's completely over with. But listen, man, before I go, I'm going to tell you this. And come on, let's keep tapping the screen and get Tim up there. We almost at 30,000. Let's get up to at least 40. I appreciate what you do. I know you always hear about coolness and MAGA don't like you and then all these things. But in all seriousness, you stand there firm in the trenches. You don't let it rattle you. You continue to do your show. I appreciate that and respect that about you, bro. I really do, man, because everybody can't do that. So keep doing your thing. Work on that bladder. You might want to start taking some supplements. You can eat, we wouldn't know if you had a little bag underneath the table. We wouldn't know in case that happens, but I appreciate it.
Apparently Mike was having some technical issues toward the end there, but thank you, Mike. Billy Wap, first time I had to cut somebody off. Mike, appreciate the galaxy. Had to cut him off. Thank you, Mike, for that support. Thank you for the accolade, Mike. You know my door is always open to you. Much love to you, man. In the comments, Billy Wap says, Tim, do you believe Trump is a real patriot? Depends on what your definition of patriot is. It really depends on what your definition of patriot is. This is where you guys, some of my liberals are not gonna like me, but I do believe that all of these politicians get in there, and to some degree, their actions are more narcissistic than they are patriotic in regards to this country. I think, because I'll tell you something. You folks may look at Trump and say he gives a damn more about himself than he does about the country. I'm going to tell you, the fact that it took Biden so damn long to step down when everybody, even on his side, was telling him you need to step down, he was putting himself above the country as well. I really, that's my opinion. You can disagree with that. I invite dissenting opinion anytime, but my opinion is it should not have taken him that long after that June 27th debate. It took him till August to step down. When you started having the George Clooney's, you started having the liberal donors started to say, we're not going to donate money to this guy's campaign. He's not going to win. It took him well over a month to step down after that horrendous debate performance. Now, normally, it's just a bad debate. You slipped up that's one thing. But when people have been accusing you of being in cognitive decline for at least a year or more, and you get up there and perform like Biden did. Keep in mind, when the bar for Biden's performance was so low that all he did is had to come out to that debate and appear coherent, and he would have passed the test. And he couldn't do that. Yet it took him a month to step down. So I'm not going to deny that Trump's narcissistic, and he certainly does things that indicate that he might be more concerned with his own welfare than the welfare of the country. But I'm going to also play devil's advocate and suggest he's not the only one that does it, because Biden, in my opinion, was doing the same damn thing. USA, the only country where words and phrases are defined differently depending on their political views. I'm pretty sure that's not totally true. I'm certain that's happening in other countries. The world was sick in a nasty place. It was over for the blue. And I think if Trump continues on, he's going to make it over with for the red, because the Hispanic vote is we can talk about the black vote or whatever. Blacks are like 13% of the population. At the national level, the black vote is not as important. It is important, but not as important as the Hispanic or white vote. And in my opinion, is the way Trump is dealing with Hispanics, if the Hispanic vote goes as far to the left as the black vote, you're not going to see a Republican president for a while. I mean, the Hispanics don't vote for Democrats as much as the black votes does. I mean, we talk about the Civil Rights Act and things like that. Well, the way Trump is treating Hispanics now, caught up in all these deportations without due process, and the way he's treating them and talking about them, if they end up voting for the Democrats the way blacks do, it's probably going to be over with for the Republicans for a minute. A lot of these folks in Congress and Senate that idly stood by and let Trump have his way, they're going to have to answer for that. They're having to answer for it now at town halls. They're having to answer for it right now. So I understand you can boast about the Democrats losing it all in 2024. it can definitely go the other way. When you look at the liberals with the LGBTQ issues, whether you're talking about CRT or tearing down statues, whatever you want to point to and suggest the liberals went way too far, late-term abortions, defund the police, socialist issue, whatever you want to point to. They went too far to the left, if that's your opinion, and you don't see the possibility of Trump going too far to the right, then you're just blinded. But Trump is going further to the right than most Republican politicians. So if you can lose because you went too far to the left, understand you can lose for going too far to the right. Christianity in schools, abortion bans, things like that. Some of this stuff is going pretty far to the right. So it can happen both. It can happen in both directions. Don't be blinded by the victory you got in last term. Will G says, what specific country are we at war with? The nation of Hispanics. You talk about in regards to that 1700s Enemy Aliens Act. What country, because he's using a wartime bill. Will says, well, what country are we at war with? The nation of Hispanics. That's pretty much it. The nation of the Republic of Brown people. That's who we're at war with. The Republic of Brown people. I'll go back to the box shortly. Major Boo says he has a work permit. That it's okay. He has a work permit. That's it okay, but no green card. Well, a work permit doesn't guarantee you much. I'll tell you because I had one when I lived in Australia. I was able to finagle my way, because I had a business over there, and I was able to finagle my way with immigration, bribes, whatever you want to call it. But I was able to talk to the right people and put a little money in the right place, and I was able to get they call it right to work, because you can come visit, but you're not allowed to earn an income without a right to work permit. And I was able to get one pretty quick, but getting a right to work permit doesn't guarantee you the right to stay in the country. So having a work permit in America is not the equivalent of having a green card, because you got to assume the folks who come across the border every day down in Tijuana or El Paso and all them places, they go work and then they go back home at the end of the evening. I guess they would have a work permit, wouldn't they? But they're not allowed to stay. So Tim, do you think Trump is manipulating the meaning of the word patriot? Yes. Anytime you call Ashley Babbitt and the protesters on January 6th, the ones threatening to take the life of the vice president, patriots, yeah, you damn right there's a lot of manipulation there. Yes. There's nothing about January 6th that shows love of country. Yes, he definitely. But listen, the word patriot has been bastardized, I guess you'd say, to mean Republican. I mean, just simple as that. I'm hanging out with my patriots. You know, they sent me these to do an ad for quite a while. These are bars of soap called Right Wing Naturals. They're bars of soap, but I'm just talking about, because he mentioned the word patriot. On the back of the bar of soap, it says something like that. Right Wing Naturals provides superior American crafted personal products for men. We started this company for modern conservatives who want to buy products from a brand that shares their values. We believe that being a patriot should never be out of style. This is a fucking bar of soap. These are bars of soap. And they have that on the back. We believe that being a patriot should never be out of style. So yeah, the word patriot has been turned into a synonym for conservative or for Republican. So yeah, there's been some change in that. Under the Alien Enemies Act, a specific country has to be named. MS-13 is not a country and actually originated out of California. I didn't know that part, that under the Alien Enemies Act, a specific country has to be named. So what if we're at war with Al-Qaeda or ISIS? I didn't know a specific country had to be named. That's interesting, because otherwise, Trump was suggesting that it was invasion. But if a country has to be named, then he's just going to name he's going to name Venezuela. He's going to name the countries that he's deporting folks from under the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, so you want me to name a country where we're deporting Venezuelan migrants to El Salvador? We're at war with Venezuela. I mean, that's what he would say. He would just pick that country. That's the way he would try to get around it. He got the most savvy attorneys there is. It's hard to say, but they're really good at loopholes, delays, altering meanings of words and things like that. So no matter what happens, expect lots of delays and shit. Anytime you are arrested, the Fifth Amendment is applied and Miranda rights are cited to you, even immigrants. Well, that's what's up for debate. Many are suggesting that illegal, if you're in this country and you're not here legally, you don't have rights. I asked that question at the beginning of the live. If you're in this country and you're 100% here illegally, should you have rights? I had a lot of folks in the comments say no. I have to see if I can get a MAGA viewer on the program, because I'd be curious to hear if MAGA believes that. I mean, because look, not having rights could mean that you could be beaten, you could lose your life, you could be robbed, you could be raped or anything by Homeland Security. You have no rights. But I got a lot of MAGA that believes if you enter this country illegally, you don't have any rights at all. Don't be surprised with these tariffs. Countries will try to make a deal with 0%, and then the catch-22 happens, and Trump decides to keep the heavy tariffs as extortion. Well, Trump is absolutely using tariffs as a weapon. I don't think there's any denial of that, because he was able to put tariffs on and then remove tariffs for maybe businesses or corporations that he had a favorable relationship with. Like, for instance, dropping the tariffs on laptops and cell phones because Apple, the CEO of Apple gave him $1 million or whatever. So meanwhile, somebody else that has a much smaller company in this same, somebody, a mom and pop business is like, well, why don't I get some kind of exclusion? Because I couldn't afford to give you $1 million. You don't suspend tariffs on my products. So yeah, he's certainly using tariffs as a weapon. I don't think there's any denying of that. That's what's happening. But Trump is savvy. This is what he does. I mean, he's using federal funding as a weapon. I mean, he is one of the main things Trump complained about under the Biden administration was that Biden was weaponizing the government to go after his adversaries. Trump is doing that. I don't think there's any denial that Trump is actually doing that, going after law firms that defended clients that were against him. The law firm is just doing their fucking job. If Hillary Clinton walks into a law firm and says, I need you to defend my case, they're just doing their job. And now Trump is going after the law firms. So he absolutely is weaponizing the government. I don't think that's even up for debate. But he was complaining that Biden was doing it. And MAGA was too. All of a sudden, now that Trump is doing it, MAGA doesn't seem to have an issue with it. But he clearly is doing that. Up to and including federal funding for universities, because I don't want them, promoting DEI or whatever. I mean, just picking and choosing. If you don't do what I want, then I'm going to try to hurt you. He's absolutely doing that. I don't think that's up for debate. Tim, be careful. Don't drop the soap, bro. Wow, a bar of soap. Oh my God, Major, you are crazy. But yeah, there's a third bar of this around here. So this one is Kingdom of the West. That's the scent. This one is Razzle Dazzle. But yeah, it's called right-wing nationals or naturals, right-wing naturals. It is soap. And we started this company for modern conservatives who want to buy products from a brand that represents their values. We believe being a patriot should never be out of style. So you want to smell good, you want to smell like a conservative, right-wing naturals. Going back to the box, Trump is merchandising and whoring out our country. Whoring out. You have to explain that one. How is he whoring out the country? Texas. Good evening, Texas. Welcome to the program. We're talking about due process. Folks are suggesting that Abrego received due process. What say you, Texas?
Hey, what's going on, Tim?
Not much at all.
When it comes to that matter, really, I have to say, we had, especially your last two guests disagree with you on this, but Biden sucked at the border, and that's just it, right? So we had an influx of illegal immigration to the country.
I would agree with that's the voter. Whether or not Biden sucked, whether or not we can look into it and figure out or not, the voter perception is that he sucked. I think more people in this country before Trump became president, believed that he would be a better choice for border security than Biden was after seeing 4 years of Biden. I mean, the voter perception is that Biden sucked on the border.
Yeah. I mean, but it's hard for a lot of people on the left, and especially the far left, to admit to any fault of a liberal Democrat, you know, which I find funny.
Do you see that on the right at all? Now, you're saying it's hard.
Well, they do.
Okay.
But that's what I find funny. It's ironic. One side I hate the other, and they both do the same thing, really, don't they? I mean, it's just I sit in the middle and just laugh at both sides, really, because I've told you before, I'm not far right. But look, we have to be, I'm a realist with it. Our judicial system has been backlogged since COVID, right? So now we have to get rid of all these illegal immigrants, and maybe some of them are legal, and, you know.
Let me ask you this, though. Why are folks saying that Abrego, the guy on my screen, why are they saying that he got due process? Do you believe he received due process?
I think at a point he did, but this last time that he's received due process, I'd say no, he didn't receive it this time. He has in the past. That's why he was still, right, correct me if I'm wrong, but he was still having to check in with immigration.
Yeah.
You know, so did he do something that we don't know? I don't know. You know, something allowed them to pick him up. You know what I mean? They'll find a reason.
Shit, they picking up every damn body. I started the program off by pointing out that they're sending letters to Americans telling them to self-deport.
Well, so you mean Americans with green cards and visas?
No, I mean Americans like you and me. They got a whole long line of ancestry in the country. I want to give you a quick one here. We'll continue talking, but I want you to see what I'm talking about here, and we'll talk about this on the other side.
France says when he first got the email, he honestly thought it was spam, but decided to look into it. And that's when he realized he could be in serious danger of being deported.
Do not attempt to remain in the United States. The federal government will find you.
Nina resident Tom France says he received this email from the Department of Homeland Security last Friday.
It was like spam. You know,
You thought it was spam?
Yeah, I thought it was spam.
Which said he would be deported after the DHS said they, quote, exercised its discretion to terminate France's parole. But France isn't on parole. He never committed any crime. In fact, he was born in Pennsylvania and has been a U.S. citizen his entire life.
You know, you hear about people being deported.
Now I'm talking about people like that. And I got multiple screens of this queued up that I can show you. You know, immigration attorneys that are born and raised here. I mean, this is happening to people that are born and raised. Now, if this guy, you take those Royal Caribbean or you take those Norwegian or Carnival Cruise Line cruises. If this guy did not know that they had him in his databases wanting to be deported, and you go on an international vacation, when he tried to get back in the country, he would have problems because they got him up for deportation.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't heard of that, so I'm learning it for the first time. But what jumps in my mind is that maybe his identity was stolen at one point. I know that can tend to happen with
his identity. Even if his identity is stolen, I mean, it tells what city and state he's born in. I mean, the guy has a social security. If they can find where this guy lives at, to send a letter out to his house, they can do just a little bit of background check and quickly come to the conclusion that this is an American citizen. This guy, you can't deport this guy. He was born here.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and that should be proven fairly easily. But. Yeah, I would say there's something bigger at play there that hasn't been uncovered yet, or they haven't released yet. Definitely something to keep an eye on, right? I mean, if it's just on the basis of that he's in association with immigrants or something like that, well, I'll get one. A large part of my family would probably get one of those emails then. I mean,
yeah, but what about what I said? Whereas if he was traveling internationally and he tried to come back in the country and that came up, he could find himself getting detained. You know, depending on when he came in, you could be detained for over a weekend. You just don't know. I mean, if they can't, I mean, he's in their database as somebody who's due to be deported.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we don't know what would happen in that case, right? I mean, I'm not really good at.
Well, let me continue. Okay.
It didn't happen that way.
All right. Well, let me continue with this. I want you to hear this one because we say we don't know what would happen. Here's one where we do know what'll happen.
A soccer coach flying home to Colorado from overseas has been detained by federal agents on a layover in Chicago. 24 hours later, his family isn't certain where he is or if he's coming home. As the Trump administration cracks down on immigrants, even those with legal permission to live in the U.S., immigration agents say this situation should serve as a warning.
A shock. I couldn't believe it. I thought he was going to go straight through. He had a 2-hour layover. We didn't think that there was going to be any problem.
Jennifer James got a call yesterday that her husband, Suleiman Young, had been detained at O'Hare. Young, a lawful permanent resident of the United States, had been visiting his family in the Gambia for the first time in 2 decades. He lives in Aurora with his wife and 3-month-old son, works as a youth soccer coach. James says a customs officer told her that the system flagged her husband's 2009 misdemeanor marijuana possession charge, which was dismissed. We should note, Young also pled guilty to felony trespass in 2003. But his wife says since then, his green card had been renewed. He wasn't told to leave in the 15, 20 years since those court cases. So Young, his family, and his friends thought he was okay to stay and to travel.
Rapists and murderers, huh? How does that happen?
Well, and, again, this is something that I would say the administration needs to come and give clarity on for sure. Will they? Who knows? I doubt it. I don't think any administration would. But, to me, he erroneously got his green card renewed, right? Or it's something that's the standard they're setting. That's why I say we need clarity on, right? I mean, is this what's going to get you deported now? We're going to go all the way back 10 years.
16 years. They went back 16 years on a marijuana charge that was dismissed. I guess if we bring up the felony trespassing, now we're going back 22 years to flag this guy. Is that not it? I mean, listen, that should have been handled in 2003, but to bring it up on the man 23 years later, come on now.
Yeah, I'll agree 100% with you. That's pretty crazy. But I think, again, that's in the grand scheme of things, that's a minimal thing that's happening. It's not the vast majority of stuff that's happening.
Do you really feel that? Because just because they're not telling us,
I see it. I don't feel it. I see it, Tim.
No, you see it because you didn't know nothing about this stuff. I would submit this to you.
No, I'd heard about that one. I'd heard about that one today. Because, I'll sit here. Look, my cousin, he owns a huge landscaping business, so he gets a lot of his employees from Mexico, right?
Okay.
They come here on visas. They rotate out every 6 months. And some of them were like, whoa, I don't know if I should come back right now because I had some, stuff in my past that might stop me. But guess what? They've done it before. They did it. They were this hesitant when Obama was president. That's something that a lot of people don't like to talk about.
I think you are aware that if you got something on your criminal history, you are more likely to get stopped under Trump than you were under Obama or Biden. I mean, what you got away with under Biden or Bush or under this administration, they're coming at people for any little thing, up to and including making mistakes and even trying to deport American citizens. And keep in mind, like what happened with Albrego Garcia, where they didn't even get a chance to state their innocence. They just got flown out. Imagine if that happened to some of these folks. At least they're able to make a phone call and tell you what's happening to them. Otherwise, they might just wake up in prison. I mean, that's what's happening to those ones that are in Venezuela. Nobody even knows whether they're innocent or not. They never got a chance to speak.
Yeah, and that's going to be the ugly side of this, right? And correcting this problem that was allowed to happen and was amplified by the previous administration is that our judicial system cannot structurally hold due process for all these people. It can't happen, Tim.
I can't let you get away with that. I can't let you.
But this is a fact.
I can't let you get away with that. I can't let you. You say the previous administration. Hold on.
Some judges. Hold on. You haven't let me make my point before you start shaking your head. You're not listening, Tim. We're short on judges. One. Okay, we're backlogged 2-3 years for some high-class misdemeanor cases, all felony cases. You're going to wait a minimum of 2 years, and now we're supposed to put even more cases by the millions on this judicial system. If we lose our judicial system or it goes into a tailspin, that is the foundation to our democracy and our government. Previous guy, Mike, wants to say we're in a constitutional crisis. We'll get there quicker if we have to uphold the due process on millions of illegal immigrants that came here unvetted or, overstayed visas, whatever the minimal case may be, but it has to be corrected. And it's unfortunately going to be corrected in an ugly way because it was handled in an ugly way.
Okay, here's my pushback. When you say that this is unfortunate due to what the previous administration did, it's very easy to put in a database to not fuck with somebody for something that's more than 6 or 7 years old. So that would probably exclude tens of thousands of people from ever even needing due process. Like this guy, he's been in the country for 20 years and he ain't done nothing wrong. You promised to go after rapists and murderers. Why the hell are you going after him? So first of all, type some code in the system that limits how far back you're going on people. That would exclude a lot of folks. In regards to social security numbers, you can put in the system to check anybody that's up for deportation, check their social security number. If it shows they were living in the country 50 years ago, they probably are an American citizen. Just a little bit of due diligence. When you talk about all of the mess that Biden left behind and they can't give all these people court cases, it's going to be real hard to give them court cases if you're fucking with Americans and people that shouldn't be fucked with. So first of all, start out by correcting the system and going after the people you campaigned on going after, rapists, murderers, and bad hombres. Not some soccer coach with a marijuana possession charge back in 2009. So they're not doing what they promised to do to get elected, and that's what's causing the problem more so than what Biden may have left them behind. They're not doing it right.
Well, I mean, look, you're also assuming that it's just easy to type some code in, right? I mean, we've come to find out that a lot of our Treasury Department and some of our Defense Department was still working with floppy disks and stuff with things, right? So I don't think the tech is there. I hope maybe they'll do that. Hopefully they're getting something there to do this more effectively and efficiently.
I got a simple solution.
That, right? Because it's not helping.
I got a simple solution. You could tell the the management throughout Homeland Security and Border Patrol and things like that. Use discretion. Is this person really a danger to this country? Use discretion. Or you can just flat out send out a memo. If the crime they committed was a misdemeanor and it's over 5-10 years ago, don't flag them. I mean, you could send out a quick memo to the management throughout these particular divisions and you wouldn't have to change any code. So yeah, it still flagged it, but I'm looking at it and we were told, it's showing he got a possession charge from 2009. We've been told that anything that's, over 5 years, if it's a misdemeanor, don't even worry about it. Simple as that. They could easily do this. They're not even trying. They could easily make this happen.
I won't disagree with you on that, but that still kind of pivots away from your point of that they all deserve due process. And what I'm saying when it comes to that is our judicial system just can't hold that weight right now. Well, everyone has to.
Well, the reason why I'm saying that is the reason why we're saying they can't all have due process because there are millions of people. And my pushback is if we weren't going after every damn body, maybe the number of people that we would have to go after would shrink. I don't know what that number would be, but when Trump says 18 million immigrants came in this country illegally, most of them are not rapists and murderers. If we went after the actual people he campaigned on going after, it wouldn't be millions of people. I mean, people, all of the folks that I showed you, none of them folks are what Trump campaigned on deporting. None of them folks are. So, I mean, but
I think the administration's made it clear that if you come here illegally, you're a criminal and they don't want you here, right? So that's where they're going to go from here. Yeah, he ran on rapists and drug dealers and trafficking and things like that. But I mean, his press secretary's made it clear. Homan's made it clear if you came here illegally, you're a criminal, you're getting deported.
I don't argue with that. But here's the issue, though. Most of the folks that came under the Biden administration were asylum seekers. They were not people who ran across the Rio Grande or overstayed their visa and was in this country illegally. Most of the people that came in this country under the Biden administration are asylum seekers, and they literally came here legally. And them are the ones he's going after. So he's not just going after illegal immigrants. He's going after everyone. If you don't have outright citizenship, Trump need to be a criminal at all. You don't even need to have entered the country illegally. As I pointed out with the soccer coach and things like that, just if you don't have citizenship, there are things throughout the Trump administration that could get you deported. And that's just not what he ran on.
I would say, I would doubt that most of the immigrants that came through under Biden were on refugees status. I don't think that's accurate, really. I know that's a left talking.
You think they just ran across the river?
I mean, not. Look, I've heard that they were getting flown in, right? Coming in on planes, but
that's a right-wing talking point.
Abbott, huh?
That's a right-wing talking point.
Well, that's what I've said. I know that's what people say, but I know, that they were coming across the border on foot a lot, because that here in Texas, you saw it on local news when Abbott was loading buses up, sending them to Chicago, New York, places like that. Now, in my brain, does that commute to add up to millions of people? No, I don't think we had 18 million come in, but I would say that we did see a huge influx. And I mean, I'll tell people right off rip that Abbott here in Texas has had his easy job as governor, because he just gets to focus on the border and say, look, I'm holding, Biden accountable, and had an easy job, did nothing else but focused on the border, which, sucks in my opinion. But
well, in regards to your claim that you don't think most of them were asylum seekers, and you mentioned people being flown into things like that, if you know the president, talking about Joe Biden, if he's made it legal for you to come through a port of entry and walk up to Border Patrol, say you want to declare asylum, and they're going to just let you in and send you throughout the country with a court date, why would you risk entering illegally? The border is essentially open at that point, so it doesn't make any sense to suggest that most of these people are not asylum seekers. Why would you choose another more dangerous method when you can literally walk up to a port of entry in Tijuana somewhere and say, I'm here to declare asylum, and they're going to let you in? Why would you run across the desert somewhere where you could be killed when you can just walk in with their blessing? My guess is most of them are asylum seekers.
I guess because you just really don't know how they come across the border illegally. If you think that they would just come across port of entries, that would be the ideal way, but they don't. I mean,
why would you not do that?
Well, a lot of them are ignorant to that fact, right? They don't have, internet, and our laws just pumped right to them to, hey, you can just go through a port of entry.
You got thousands of migrants all walking through Mexico. They're all over Fox News. They're seeing them on TV. They know this group is walking to the United States. They're going to go to a port of entry. They're going to be let in. You don't think the word got out that you don't need to run across the desert and risk your life when they're letting you in?
And then, well, what I was going to finish and say was another large part of them come in contact with the cartels in Central and America and in Mexico, and are forced to go across, right, and forced into trafficking and smuggling, which is evident across the border, and you can see it, and that's why they're not going to go through a port of entry. And it's known because when Border Patrol seizes, drugs, I hope that didn't flag you or anything, but
you're good. Don't worry about it.
Can be said.
You're good.
Drugs at the border, especially when it gets caught through a port of entry, that is pretty much looked at as they wanted us to catch that, because here's this what we're willing to lose, and the rest is coming through people and muled through the border at places that aren't ports of entry. Yeah, a lot of people came through, and you can see it with the existence of grape trees and things like that people don't want to say exist, especially if they're on the left. They want to say that doesn't happen. Yeah, it does. I mean, it's a horrible thing to see. So, yeah, I would still say that a lot of them came through illegally. Yeah.
Okay. But, we could go back and forth. We're probably not going to totally agree on this, but the point I said remains is that if Trump went after those type of people and not the asylum seekers or people who've been holding a green card, like the last video I showed you, that guy's been holding a green card since 1999. If he went after the people you're talking about, the people who are genuinely here illegally, like he promised to do, he wouldn't have this huge backlog of people to give due process. The reason he can't give everybody court dates is because he's greatly expanded the amount of people he's going after, which is not what he campaigned on.
I don't think he greatly expanded it. I think it's
the guy I just showed you. He campaigned on going after that guy with a green card since 1999 and a marijuana charge from 2009. He campaigned on going after people like that.
I mean, I think with that one, and again, you're using one instance out of tens
What
of
about
thousands.
what about the white dude from Pennsylvania I gave you?
Well, I don't think there's enough on that. I think that is
why is he even getting a letter and having to deal with that shit?
I don't know. Why don't we wait and see what unfolds from it instead of saying, "Oh, this isn't working right." You've got 4. Let's say you've got 20 of these instances out of the tens of thousands that's happening. That's a small percentage. You're wanting perfection, Tim, and you want to say that's messed up.
Wait, hold on. How many? Okay, you can assume that any of these things that you and I find out about represents a tiny. If I show you one video, it's probably at least a few thousand of those out there. The idea that this is the only one that exists.
No, there's not. How does that mean there's 1,000 that exist for one? Where are you getting that statistic?
Because you know that plenty of people do not have access to the media or access to get their story out. Just like Albrego Garcia.
The left-wing media would be jumping with it and showing thousands of people being affected. That I think you're reaching and praying for that to be the case. And that's sad because that's.
You really think Albrego out of the 200 or 300 people they sent to El Salvador, you really think Albrego Garcia is the only one that got treated like that? You really think he's the only one out of that group?
I think if there was more, we definitely would have heard from the left by now.
How? We don't even know who they sent. They didn't even give us an inventory. People got missing persons reports out there.
Senators down there visiting Albrego, so wouldn't there be more?
They brought Albrego. No, they brought Albrego Garcia to a damn hotel. They didn't let him into prison to go inventory who was there. They brought him to a hotel and sat him down. So that senator don't know who's in there.
It would have been televised by now. I think you're reaching on that for sure. You can't sit here and assume.
The only way
that when it happened to a handful of people, that
doesn't make any sense. The only way they knew Albrego Garcia was in that prison is because Bukele, the president of El Salvador, put out that propaganda video showing people being brought into his prison, and his friends recognized him as one of the folks. They had a missing persons report out on Albrego. They didn't know where he was at. Same thing with there's this gay hairdresser they got down there in that prison. Same thing with him. Just a missing persons report. They didn't know where he was at until that propaganda video went out and people recognized that's my relative that they taken in there. So no, the Democrats won't know. We don't, out of the 200-300 people they sent to that prison, nobody knows who all of those people even are. There's no inventory. The Trump administration never told you this is the 300 people we sent. Nobody knows. So you can assume that there are people of, let's say for instance, you came to the country at 16 by yourself. Your family don't know if you got here, if you're missing, if the cartel, they don't know. So there's plenty of people they could snatch up and not tell anybody, and they would just disappear.
That's very true, but you're still only, you got to go with what you see. You can't sit there and assume that there's thousands of people that this is happening to. I can't see it.
But we can assume there's thousands of Lincoln Rileys and rapists and murderers, though.
I don't think there's thousands of Lincoln and Rileys, and I know I'm not a Republican in the fact that I think that immigrants are bad. I know that's what gets painted when people.
That's what he says.
Right.
That's what he says. It ain't what's getting painted as Trump. That's what Trump is saying. He's indicating that they're all. What did he say? Mexico's not sending their best and brightest. They're sending us their rapists and murderers. That's what he's saying.
Tim, calm down. Calm down, Tim. I didn't say that Trump wasn't holding the brush. I said that's what gets painted for people like me. Calm down, Tim. I'm not excluding Trump out of painting the bad picture and making it where that. Well, I mean, you go fly off the handle and hold me from what Trump
you
says.
said some wild shit. You said some wild shit. That's why.
I'm not like that, is what I'm saying. And you're saying I am like that. See, that's the.
I think many folks.
When I'm sitting here trying to say that I'm not that way, and then you hold me accountable for something that Trump said, goes totally against me as a person.
Did you vote for Trump?
You're not letting me.
Did you vote for Trump? Yeah.
Well, I've answered that question for you a few times.
Yes, I just went for the audience. What I'm simply saying is, you're accusing the left and even myself of making generalizations, but you do realize you voted for him and he's making generalizations on these immigrants, leading to many of them to have their lives ruined without due process.
Yeah, I understand. And I've told you why I voted for him. If you don't remember why, I can remind you, but I didn't vote for him on immigration.
Okay. Do you think what he's doing to these people is wrong?
I think there's going to be some definitely unfortunate cases with like
that ain't what I asked you.
But I don't.
That's not what I asked you. Is it wrong?
Well, can you let me get there? God
You
dang,
said
man, you're the most
unfortunate cases. You started out with bullshit. Go ahead, I give you the floor.
That's exactly how I feel. I'm actually being honest, and you're telling me I'm bullshit. But
you said unfortunate case. Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't let someone get to their point. So I think there's going to be unfortunate cases like this. I'm not saying that these are going to be the only few. I'll say there's probably going to be more. I don't think there's going to be hundreds. I don't think there's going to be thousands. But I think it's something that's going to happen because of what is something that needs to be done to correct what was overlooked. And it wasn't just overlooked in Biden's administration either. This is something that has been a problem for decades in our country, right? So I'm just hoping we got to do what we got to do to get the problem resolved and fixed in the right way. It might not be done the right way all the way, but it's hopefully will get us in the goal that we need. And that's what I feel.
You asked me to give you time when the simple question was, do you think what he is doing to these people is wrong? I don't even know if you said yes or no.
Because you quit listening.
I'm listening now. Is what he did to these people wrong?
Is what he did to the...
Is what he is doing to folks, people who are being deported, like the guy who has marijuana beef from 2009. Is what he is doing to these people wrong? Is it wrong what he's doing?
Well, I said there'll be cases like that where they're unfortunate and they are wrong. That's what
okay, there we go. Where we go? We're getting there. Okay, that's what I was looking for. All right.
I mean, yeah, I'm not denying that they happen. Okay. I don't know. You just quit. You zone out, I guess, or something.
All right. I just, okay, fair enough. All right, Texas, you know what I got to do. Always a pleasure talking to you. We don't have to agree, but I always like hearing from you, man. Thanks for coming through. Doors always open to you. You too. All right, moving on back to the box. And like I said, folks, that's how the program is ran. We're all about free speech. You don't have to agree with the host or any damn body on the program. That's how we do it. We go left to Bernie Sanders, so I'm having dinner with Q. I haven't solicited folks tapping the screen at all tonight, really, of any significance. Damn, the likes are really low. We should be around about 90,000. Tap the screen, get us up to at least 50. Good minute of tapping. Help out the algorithm, brings in more MAGA. It actually brings in more numbers to the program, too. But tap the screen, get the likes up. Texas won't understand until it happens to him. Unfortunately, truth will set you free. That applies to a lot of folks. And on the Trump side, whether it's federal, no sympathy for Americans getting fired from federal employee jobs or Americans that are being told to deport, stuff like that. That is kind of the mindset, is that we kind of need to do this. And as my last caller said, there's going to be some unfortunate cases. But then when it actually happens, because can you imagine saying Lincoln Riley, look, we do have to open our borders up and be, open to the downtrodden. And unfortunately, there's going to be some Lincoln Riley cases like that. Can you imagine how MAGA would take that? Well, unfortunately, some Lincoln Riley is going to happen. But our job is to be, somewhat responsible on the planet and look out for those, some unfortunate cases. There's no way MAGA would ever entertain that. We're talking about deporting people to maximum security prison that have no crimes committed. And here's what really is egregious about this, because folks are suggesting that, listen, Abrego Garcia, he had due process, or he didn't have a legal right to be here, or he was sent back to his home country, or whatever the case may be. My take on it is this. This man has no criminal history of any significance in America, and he has no criminal history of any significance in El Salvador. Why is he in a prison down there? So this is where MAGA will suggest, well, we didn't put him in prison. We just sent him home and they put him in prison. The pushback is obvious. we're paying them to house him in that prison. So how can we claim we're not responsible for this man being in prison when we deported him to El Salvador knowing ahead of time he was going to prison, that we were paying to house him? How is America not culpable in that? We knew when we put him on the plane, at the end of your stop, you going to prison. We know this man is about to lock you up because we're paying him to do so. And somehow America's not responsible for what they're doing to this guy, which essentially amounts to a human rights violation, by the way. You're locking somebody up with no criminal record. What El Salvador is doing is almost akin to just picking somebody up and throwing them in prison for no reason at all. This man has no criminal history in El Salvador. Why is he in a maximum security prison? Or why was he there? I believe they've taken him out, but why was he there? MAGA don't care. MAGA's like, look, hey, we had to get rid of him from here, so if getting rid of him means sending him to a maximum security prison, so be it. But just my personal view, this is where the liberal side of me comes out. It almost sounds like he actually had a legitimate asylum case. He fled El Salvador, suggesting that MS-13 was after him. Well, in this case, he could have also said my own government is after me. They want to lock me up and I haven't done anything wrong. So we send him back to his own country, and that's exactly what happens. They lock him up and he hasn't done anything wrong. Based on what happened, he kind of has the perfect fit for an asylum claim. There's no reason this man should be in prison. There's no reason his home country should have thrown him in prison. He hasn't done anything criminal to be in a prison over there. And there's absolutely no reason America should be paying for it. But like I said, some folks in this country are like, that's cool, you can do it because he shouldn't have been here. Will G says the difference between Democrats and Republicans: Democrats will feed people in fear one might starve. Republicans will starve people in fear one does not deserve to eat. I've seen a video of somebody doing that online, making that statement. It's valid. It's valid. And I'll tell you why I say that. It's because just like anytime there's a welfare program or an entitlement program, the right tends to see fraud more than the necessary need for assistance. I don't want to give away food stamps because you're going to have fraudulent people receiving food stamps. So they tend to want to cancel the program to eliminate fraudulent folks from applying for food stamps or welfare or any other entitlement program. Well, the problem with that is obvious. You're going to get rid of the program so people who actually need it, it's not going to be there. So they would rather cancel the programs to prevent anyone fraudulent from getting it, even if it means canceling out people who really genuinely need it. And as Will pointed out, the Democrats, on the other hand, would rather give assistance to everybody, even if it led to people who fraudulently were receiving it, just to prevent innocent people from starving or whatever. So yeah, the right and the left they definitely see that different. I actually agree with that because I've been talking about it throughout the years in regards to entitlement programs that the right wanted to get rid of. And in most cases, when they say they want to get rid of an entitlement program, it's due to perceptions of fraud. It's due to perceived fraud. And when they're getting rid of the program for fraud, the innocent people that actually need it, well, they lose out too. But you're going to get rid of it for fraud. Now imagine trying to sue. Yeah, you're going to be the sue if you don't have due process and nobody ever hears from your ass again. Miss Major Blue says, just say if, for example, if the far left win the election, think maybe if it went too far left, we could all be living in times of the movie called Demolition Man, having rat burgers and living underground. Well, first of all, I'm going to point out that there are far left countries on this planet. There are far right countries on this planet. And the far left countries are not living like that. I'm going to tell you this, and this is where my beloved MAGA is probably not going to agree with me, but I'm going to tell you this. When you look at the countries on this planet that are far left versus the ones that are far right, I would much rather live in a far left country than a far right country. I mean, the countries with the most amount of freedom for the individual citizen tends to be far left countries. Far right countries are very strong in terms of religion. They marginalize whatever the minority population is, whether it's a person of color, whether it's Sunni versus Shiite, you name it. Croats versus, the Serbian the whole thing with Yugoslavia back in the day. Far right populations are not. They're big on the majority, the minority population in far right environments. The minority population gets mistreated. They're not big on women's rights in far right populations. Think Afghanistan or any of those countries in the Middle East that are far right. They're not big on that. And like I said, they're very, very religious. Far left, Denmark, where you can pretty much be anything you want to be. You want to be gay. You want to have sex in the street. You name it. I mean, it's just a free for all. It's a far more free country. And countries, I'm talking about many of them that are like that. Norway is another example, or any of those. I mean, it's just, I would much rather be in a far left country from that aspect than a far right country, because the amount of freedoms you get in the far left country are going to be significant. Freedom of religion, all of that stuff. Freedom of sexuality. There's going to be entitlement programs if you need them. All of that. You're going to have all of that. The diversity generally is a little bit better. All of that stuff is there. So, looking in the comments, Major Boo says Trump is literally letting hard criminals out and deregulating food and vaccine research. He's talking about the J6 protesters in regards to the hard criminals. And you see who I'm putting on the screen here. TK, thank you for the super chat. You don't get MS-13 tattoos for no reason. Couple pushbacks on that. First of all, if they were only deporting people with MS-13 tattoos, we might have a little bit more of a conversation. I just showed you 3 cases, and I could show you more. And none of these people, I don't think any of the folks that I showed you have a tattoo on them at all. 2 of them are American citizens. So if they were only deporting people with MS-13 tattoos and a history of being in MS-13, we could probably have more of a conversation. But they're deporting a lot more than MS-13. They're way beyond that. But I also would point out, a tattoo doesn't denote being in a crime. There are a lot of folks that want to be badasses, that wear their pants around their ass or do things that look like gang culture that are not in a gang. Also, there are people who have been bullied, who join gangs just to stop the bullying. Everybody who's involved in a gang is not going out committing major felonies. It's just not happening that way. Many of you folks have probably grew up with people that were involved in street activities. Maybe you're going around tagging bridges or spray painting some shit, or just smoking when you're too young to smoke just to look cool. Every gang is not, and that's up to and including MS-13. I don't buy that every MS-13 member, as some have suggested, had to take a life to merely get initiated into the gang. I have never heard that anywhere. And there are plenty of studies on MS-13 gang members. I've never heard that every single one of them has taken a life before. I've just never heard of that. Not surprised. MAGA ain't shit, says Will G. 90% white, just like in the case of Manifest Destiny and slavery. It's a necessary evil for whiteness. Yuck. Is MAGA 90% white? Is it that high? They say MAGA is 90% white. Is it really? I've been to a Trump rally. It was over 90% the times I went, but is that true? That MAGA's 90% white? Let me go back to the box. 90%. You think it's that high? Exactly. A lot of them are forced into gangs. That's why they run. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons you could end up with MS-13 tattoo. I just believe that due process could help out some folks who really need it. Just shipping. And by the way, even as I stated too, having a tattoo in America is not a crime punishable by prison. It's just not. So even if they have a tattoo on their body, I just don't buy the notion that alone should be an excuse to send them to prison. This guy, Abrego Garcia, he has a very, very little on him to be justifying putting him in maximum security prison. I haven't heard any. They're bringing up he had a accusation from his wife that he beat her in 2001 or 2021 rather. Maximum security prison for that? Nobody goes to prison for that. You got to damn near kill the bride. Nobody goes to prison. It's incredible. They're all about talking these brown and black gangs, but let it be an Italian gang trying to leave the mob for a better life. They would be sobbing, talking about let them in. Well, you know how to hit them in the gut. Yeah, listen, I don't disagree with that. That if you had a gang that was primarily Caucasian, the mindset would change. Because I tend to believe the same thing on January 6th. If the participants of January 6th were primary people of color, I don't think the mindset would have been the same. They certainly would not have made an album with Trump or a song with Trump. Let me go back to the box. Den Cal, good evening or welcome to. Oh, I got MAGA Reacts, rather. MAGA Reacts. Why are so many people, when he promised to deport rapists and murderers, why are so many folks that have done little to nothing getting deportation letters?
I mean, they're still illegal.
No, they're not. I just played videos of actual American citizens getting letters talking about you need to deport.
What do you mean? There are American citizens that were deported to El Salvador, is that what you're saying?
No, American citizens are receiving letters telling them they have to deport, and they're being forced to have to clear it up with ICE, scaring the shit out of American citizens.
I mean, that sounds like an obvious mistake, and it shouldn't be a problem.
Well,
being deported and getting a random letter in the mail are far apart, especially if we're talking about El Salvador.
No, but here's the problem, MAGA Reacts. If you're coming back home from a different country, or let's say you even get pulled over by the police, and it's flagged, you get pulled over by the police, particularly in a right-wing state, and it's flagged in the system that you are up for deportation. I mean, even though it's an obvious mistake, they got to follow up on that and clear that up. So you might be a bit late coming home, might be days late coming home. You don't know how long it's going to take. It's a major issue. They got you in the database as up for deportation, and you're an American citizen.
I mean, there's always been an issue. It's not something new with Trump. That's always been an issue with our system. It's not perfect. That's why a lot of people don't even trust the elections, because we don't know who's a citizen and who's supposed to be voting and who's not.
I don't recall this being a
not perfect. Everyone thinks everyone in America is on a database somewhere. Most people aren't.
I don't recall this being a major. You said it's not like it's something that started with Trump. I don't even remember hearing about this shit under Trump's first term. This is new, MAGA Reacts. This wasn't happening under Biden. It wasn't happening under Obama. It wasn't happening under Trump's first term. It's the fact that Trump has got incredibly aggressive in deporting people. This stuff wasn't happening like this.
No, shit was always happening. The news just found something new to attack Trump with, especially since he's, his biggest achievement is how good he's doing on the border. They found a little, kink in the chain, and they're attacking it with their full force. I mean, I was looking up, before I got on here, I remember 8 months ago, watching a video about how, the Chicago Bulls sell a lot of green jersey, even though their color is red. And it's because a bunch of gang members buy them. And, but it had to do with more LA gangs. So I'm not sure if it's connected to MS-13, but
are we really cool?
Why is this hat he's wearing important? Why are these tattoos important? For a guy that's not a gang member, he's sure fucking dressed as one.
Are we really going to be okay with actually taking action against people for wearing a Bulls hat? A product of the NBA, you got a hat on and you're...
procedure for 100 years now. Not 100, but at least 20 or 30, 40 years now.
Wait, say that again?
This has been standard police procedure for 40 years now. This isn't something we just invented for the immigrants.
You don't have the legal...
I got pulled over and they kept asking me about my cross on my hand. What is that tattoo about? You know? And this was...
You don't have they don't have the legal right to do anything to you based on you wearing a baseball cap or even having if as an American citizen, the police do not have a right to do anything to you solely based on a tattoo or a baseball cap you're wearing. They can't do that.
No, but any interactions with police, they notate that shit. They use it to ID you and to ID if you're a member of a gang. Been police procedure since I was in high school.
Yeah.
Like I said, I got pulled over for speeding, and every single time, they check my tattoos more than they checked. I have a small little tattoo. They check that more than my license.
Yeah, but if you were to go to court up on charges or something, and all they had on you was that you had a baseball cap on that matched the caps of another gang, That ain't going nowhere. A good lawyer should be able to easily get that thrown out. Anybody could have went out and bought that damn
Three
cat.
or four things. He's got the hat. He's got the tattoos. He's got the informant. He's got like 4 or 5 things working against him. Are you telling me they're all like accidents?
Well,
they're all coincidence?
Well, first of all, the informant thing, I don't know where to go with that because we don't know who the informant is. I mean, we don't know what the credit. That's the first thing you need to find out is, was the informant offered anything for informing? Maybe he was trying to save himself from going to prison. The informant may have little to know. If you don't trust Mike Pence suggesting that Trump was trying to steal the election, but you trust some random informant, then you're just biased. A lot of folks don't even believe that Mike Pence and Attorney General Barr, who were informing on Trump, was telling the truth. But we believe this random informant out in space somewhere?
No, I agree with you, but it's like more than one thing. You got like 4 or 5 things now. And you got
Give me the 4 or 5. Well, the informant.
Why aren't they going after the cop? Why is no one interviewing this cop to ask him, is the informant legit? Is this whole situation? Where is this cop that supposedly did the report? That took the informant's information. Why isn't he being interviewed by the entire world?
Because my guess is the reason he probably ain't being interviewed is because they're probably not producing who he is. The government don't even want to tell you who all of the people the only way we know Albrego
They know who the cop is.
What?
They know who the cop is. It's public information.
Well,
the informant isn't, but the cop, we know who he is. I really doubt that we don't know that. No,
well,
we know who the cop is. We
well,
don't know who the informant is.
Okay, well, if you know who the
cop, I don't see any videos of anybody interviewing him. Why?
Because he probably gonna stick with his story. I mean, let's be real about it. You got a lot of cops that don't like illegal immigrants as well. A lot of cops are MAGA. So right now is a perfect time. If you don't like these brown folks, it's a great time to be in law enforcement, Homeland Security, a local beat cop, working for ICE. It's a great time because you can do a whole lot to these people with little to no accountability. If you say an informant told me this person was MS-13, ain't nobody gonna ask you any questions about the informant. So you can make up shit.
Look, I agree with you on all this shit, except, this is a deportation case. If it was like life in prison or even a year in prison, I'd be like, yeah, but it's not enough to incriminate anyone, but this is not criminal court. This is immigration court.
Why is this man in prison? What has this man done to justify sending him to maximum security prison? Why is he in prison?
Nothing. He just needs to. He should have been just deported to his country. El Salvador should just release him. So leave him, release him to his country.
So is it safe to say that America did him wrong?
No, America deported him. I mean, El Salvador, even if we're paying them, they don't have to keep their own citizen in fucking jail.
America knew the moment they put him on the plane that the intention on the other side was to put him in prison because we're paying for him to be housed there. We knew I guess I would present it like this. If we were not paying the El Salvadorans to keep these folks in prison, do you think they would lock them up anyway?
No, I don't. I think, yeah, they would, because they're very strict against MS-13 over there. Their burden of proof is probably less than ours. So I think if he was deported for any reason to El Salvador, even if we didn't take him there, if he stepped foot in El Salvador on his own, he probably would have ended up in the same place, because that's how strict they are.
So why would
they had a pendulum swing too? Because they went from being the murder capital of the world, or the most. From a lot of people getting killed to very safe.
It's very safe. If you're just randomly locking up males for no reason at all, that's one way to make a country very safe. But what you're doing is criminal in itself.
But that's how a pendulum swing works. They're going to be very strict for a few years, and hopefully they'll get to relax and slowly release those people.
But how does it look?
That's really how a pendulum swing works. Same with Trump. We had a free-for-all under Biden for 4 years, and now we're going to be a little crazy, be a little sensitive with our deportation. But, at least Trump's aiming for criminals. Even though some of these people are innocent or allegedly innocent, he's not going after, he's going after MS-13 and missing. He's not going after grandmas and, deporting them. You know what I'm saying? His goal is still to go after criminals. He doesn't care to.
The guy the guy who literally
he just wants to deport them.
He's going at the criminals. The guy who literally pardoned folks who were threatening to unalive the vice president, pardoned them and called them patriots. That guy is going at the criminals. You sure it's not a specific type of criminal?
No, I mean, again, with January 6th, we could discuss that separately. I sent you a video like yesterday or today.
Does your video suggest that nobody that Trump pardoned was a criminal?
What's up? No, I'm sure some of them were criminals, right, but a lot of them were innocent, and a lot of them were treated just as bad as these people were treated. You know, there's that one, the video I sent you had two people. The first guy was in solitary confinement for 4 months for no reason. He had like barely a misdemeanor, maybe a felony charge. He barely walked into the fucking, he did no violence. He was kind of pushed into the Capitol building. And, you know, just because he was popular on YouTube and he was like had a little bit of following, they nailed him to the wall. And just because he wouldn't just take a plea bargain and he actually fought them, they put him in solitary confinement. And the other guy, he actually took a plea bargain and only got like 6 months of house arrest and probation. But even he, like, they made him plead guilty to some shit. And the way they worded it, they left him open to a lawsuit. And the second he pled guilty, thinking, you know, I made a deal, I'm getting off easy with house arrest, fucking people were ready to sue him. George Soros and his buddies sued him, and he spent $300K fighting a civil suit because he took a deal and pled guilty to shit he wasn't guilty of.
How did they make him plead guilty? How do you make somebody plead guilty?
Because they made up some bullshit charges, and he was facing 10 years. He was facing 10 or 20 years, or like 6 months of house arrest and probation if he pled guilty to nothing.
They didn't make. It doesn't sound like they.
Would you risk 20 years or be in your house for 6 months?
I mean, I'm going to take the 6 months, but it doesn't sound like they made him plead guilty. What they did was they gave him a lesser charge for not having.
He didn't even enter the building. He just walked past the barricade.
You know, let me just say this. I have what makes this difficult is that you and a lot of MAGA talk about how wrong these people were treated, but you have no problem doing this to Albrego Garcia, and then you talk about how some of these folks didn't even enter the building in the same conversation that you're calling Ashley Babbitt, who did enter the building, a patriot. So I don't know what to believe, because if you want to say somebody was on the line,
patriot, I just said her murder was a little bit.
Trump calls her a patriot, and he calls the cop that took her life a thug. So some of the language you guys are using is so backwards, I don't know what to believe. If it was only
she's also patriot because she was a veteran and she was a soldier.
Who gives a fuck? You know how many veterans and soldiers are in prison? I ain't saying nothing.
But most veterans are patriots. They served their country, and they sacrificed a lot. She was a patriot even before
Wasn't Timothy McVeigh the one who blew up the Oklahoma City bombing? Wasn't he a veteran? I mean, is that you wait till this person tried to kill somebody to call him a patriot? She wasn't a patriot.
She didn't kill anybody. She got killed. She didn't kill anybody. She didn't hurt anybody.
We don't know if she was on her way to do it or not. We know she was destroying property and climbing her way throughout the building. What was he supposed to do? Was her actions patriotic? Is she, out of all the folks, like you're talking about,
going through a broken window? You think that you deserve to be shot?
If you break the window,
I guess, but she wasn't threatening anyone's life.
If you're standing on the other side and you've taken up arms, and the person breaks a window and they're climbing through, what do? You just let them through and hope for the best?
I mean, if it's a public place like that and it's a protest where nobody has gotten hurt up to that point, there's no gunshots up to that point, they're very lightly armed, if armed at all. They barely have.
So what you're saying is let her through and hope for the best?
it's not about hoping for the best. Wait for her to actually come after you before you shoot her.
Right.
You
Let
know?
her through.
Still had a gun. After she came through,
Right.
he still had a gun. He actually came toward him, then he could have easily shot her then.
You're saying exactly what I'm saying. You're just calling it something different. Let her through and hope for the best. Hopefully she don't come at you.
We've had this argument a million times. I get her aside, there were still a lot of people there mistreated. Just like Trump. Trump, I'm sure he's gotten a lot of MS-13 people deported. I'm not arguing with you about them, but he you know, fuck, these people should be deported, period.
Like I said, to me, the credibility gets lost when you defend those folks on January 6th and then talk about the illegal immigrants need to be deported, but you view these people as patriots.
You say a lot of these people didn't do anything in January 6th.
You don't think a lot of the people being deported didn't do anything either?
Well, they at least looked.
No.
I mean, this guy had at least 5 things to ID him as MS-13.
I'm telling you, some of these folks didn't do. I mean, some of these folks even had green cards. They didn't even come in. They were not even in the country illegally. Some of these folks have done nothing at all wrong.
Okay, now you're talking about the other ones, the protesters, right? Because I'm pretty sure.
I'm talking about some of the folks. I'm talking about.
None of them had green cards.
Well, here's the problem. When you send hundreds of people to El Salvador and you give no inventory of who they are, there's no way to be certain that some of them folks are not innocent. They didn't. I mean, why are you hiding who they are?
They were deported, though. They were deported. It's not innocent or guilty. They were deported.
But how do we?
You didn't belong in this country, and you were removed.
How do you know they didn't belong? How do you know they didn't belong in the country if you don't know who they are?
Because it's the government that deported them. Not. I'm sure someone knows who they are, and if any of them had green cards, we definitely know about it.
Yeah,
it would have some sort of leaker or something.
Yeah, the same someone is calling Ashley Babbitt a patriot. That someone knows who they are. You trust that someone?
Trump isn't doing this all himself. You guys act like Trump picked out every one of those 200 people and had them arrested and sent them overseas to El Salvador. Trump is just telling people to deport MS-13, and this is what our fucking justice system provided him to deport.
This is the
result more of our shitty justice system than anything.
He's the one on TV sitting next to Bukele talking about the man's domestic violence beef from 4 and 5 years ago. He's put himself at the top of this.
Because the rhetoric helps him. The rhetoric helps him keep people from coming here illegally. And the rhetoric helps him in a lot of ways. It distracts from this bad economy. It fucking helps him in a lot of ways. I don't like it, but it does help him.
You said it
detracts. We about tariffs, but what have we been talking about the last 4 days?
It detracts from this fucked up economy, huh? Oh my God. At least you admitted it. MAGA Reacts, I gotta move it on. You said it detracts from this.
Watch those videos I linked you. I don't know if you saw them. There's 2 guys talking about how they were treated. The guy cost him $300,000 for accepting a plea deal. The civil lawsuit, just defending himself from the civil lawsuit, $300K.
I gotta look it up. I haven't seen it. I've been busy.
They got fucked over more than these people go into El Salvador.
Right, but as you rightfully point out, it helps detract us.
People are in jail with like 80 other guys. This guy was by himself for 4 months in a room. He was supposed to be given a phone call every 7 days. He didn't get no phone call. He got no contact with anybody for months at a time, just getting his food and a fucking cube to look out of.
Shit, you got some of
this is America.
You got some of them. You got some of them immigrants like shit. It sound like they treated them better than me. I gotta go though.
Take care.
All right. At least he did admit this distracts us from this bad economy. Wow. So I mean, he was honest. I got to give him credit at the end. He's been honest. He's not trying to sugarcoat Trump's economy. Simple question. Does belonging to a gang break the law? No, it does not. No, it does not. Fact is, we are treating immigrants different than we are Americans. And I don't know if that's constitutional or not. I know how MAGA feels on it. I know how the liberals feel on it. It's probably going to be up to the Supreme Court to speak on it. But if you are an immigrant, can you be, I think the answer is probably yes, though. You can be held accountable, at least from a deportation standpoint, for doing things that would not affect an American citizen at all. I don't know to what level though, because Trump is going at the people who wrote books, attended protests. I mean, he's way down in the weeds. We're way off of the beaten path of rapists and murderers. Now you spoke out on behalf of Hamas, somebody who has no access to Israel, no intentions of going over there. Well, you spoke out on behalf of them. I'm gonna deport you for that. I mean, so I would think that you can be held accountable for some shit that an American citizen may not be held accountable for. But when you start talking about tattoos and stuff like that, or wearing a Bulls cap, that's way down in the weeds. That right there is way down there. Hopefully the Supreme Court sees that one. I mean, they're literally bringing up that the man had a Chicago Bulls cap on. Damn, that one's crazy to me. Before we move on, how many of the millions deported by Clinton or Obama got due process? Do not know. In the DC, probably was when nobody complaining. I think the issue with Trump, and I'm a big fan of securing the border. I don't have any problem with Trump securing the border. I think what makes Trump get more attention, two things. First of all, everything he says is not true. That's the first thing. Saying a lot of shit that's not true is going to attract attention to you. Second thing is bragging about it. Obama was more of a just do it kind of guy. Yes, he was separating families at the border. Yes, he was deporting a hell of a lot of people, but he wasn't on TV bragging about it. Trump is bragging about the misery because he believes it is a deterrent to coming here illegally. So, I mean, just like the whole firing federal employees, which people bring up that other administrations, the Clinton administration fired federal employees, but they didn't go on TV with a chainsaw like Elon Musk and smiling and stuff. So you can do what needs to be done, even if it harms Americans. But when you start appearing as if you're happy to do it, that's when you draw problems. Let's say, for instance, somebody broke in your home. You have a right to defend your castle. So you use a firearm and you defend your home. If you're bragging about taking the life of that person, just going around it, you might encounter problems you normally would not encounter. If you just maintained a stoic look and stated, look, I had to do what was right by my house. I didn't know if he was that's one thing. But when you come across as if you were happy this person broke in your house so that you could take their life, you may all of a sudden start hearing from prosecutors. They may come up with some shit. You seem like you like killing. Trump seems like he likes misery. He likes delivering misery. So that causes problems. And that applies to also to folks who often ask, well, why do everybody hate this guy? Why do you have TDS? He seems to like being awful to people. It's going to attract that. Will G says they're all about taking these brown and black gangs. Oh, I saw that, Malik. Yeah, and I agree with that. I did see that. I want to make sure I didn't miss something else. Oh, Majin Blue. Wow, thank you. Tim, it was really bad when you were talking to Mr. Texan. That was bad as it was in Congress. Oh my God, damn. Oh my God, LOL, answer the damn question. He didn't want to answer the question. I asked a simple question. Are we doing some of these immigrants wrong? And he was, well, there's some unfortunate cases. And yeah, he was dodging it. Major, thank you for the support. He was dodging it. And I followed up by simply saying, can you imagine if we said, look, with people like Lincoln Riley, there's going to be some unfortunate cases? That would be awful to say that. Sending people to prison potentially for life, that's an awful thing to do to people who may not deserve to be there. Major says if it was reversed and straight out of Compton, Trump wouldn't do shit. Yeah, what he deport? No, I mean, look, a lot of this stuff is racially charged, just like the whole. And I'll go to the box after this. What is the guy's name? Austin Metcalf and Carmelo Anthony. The only reason that case is making so many rounds is the racial element. If Carmelo and Austin were both black or both white, you would not have heard of that case unless you lived in Frisco, Texas, or in that area somewhere. It would not have made news. Also, if Carmelo Anthony was white and Austin Metcalf was black, the same folks making the arguments would be reversed, or at least the majority of them would. Majority of them folks would be on the opposite side of that argument. If Carmelo Anthony was a white guy that got stabbed by Austin Metcalf under the same circumstances. Metcalf went and sat down. Carmelo asked him to leave and apparently touched him in some form of a way. And all of a sudden, Metcalf was like, if you touch me again, you see what happens. And Metcalf stabs Carmelo. A lot of the same folks demanding Carmelo Anthony spends the rest of his life in prison right now would be saying that Metcalf fucked around and found, or Carmelo fucked around and found out, and he should have never put his hands on anybody. It would be completely the opposite. It would be exactly the reverse of what it is now. So some of these things do have racial elements, and what's happening with the illegal immigrants is a perfect example of that. A lot of that's racially charged. The Fifth Amendment says no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Person, not citizen, is what Starch Manning is rightfully pointing out. Well, and I agree with that, but here's a problem. When you've been telling folks for months, if not years, that these immigrants are poisoning the blood of this nation, that they are vermin. That's not a person. That's an animal. That's an insect. That's a roach. That's a rodent. When you're calling folks vermin, it's removed the human element from them. So it's a lot easier to convince people that it's okay to treat them like animals because that's what you've been calling them for the last several years. While I agree with what you're saying about the Fifth Amendment, a lot of folks don't see them as human. They don't see them as human. Poison in the blood of this country. They're vermin. They got to go. What do you do with vermin? You call Orkin or somebody. Exterminate them. They don't see them as human. So it does make it a bit easier to do that. Once again, in the comments, Will G says, and Petey hit that. MAGA ain't shit. Says Major League Baseball better keep prospects close. They might get Juan Soto and Aaron Judge for wearing a Yankees or a Mets hat. How long before this does happen to somebody that is well known? I brought up early in the live stream the fact that we're hosting a World Cup next year where athletes from all over the world come to America. And a lot of times their fans from their countries follow them here. Would you want to come to America right now if you were coming from you're coming from some of these foreign countries to watch your favorite soccer player or something like that, and you're hearing about people getting detained at the border, even Americans, even some American citizens are getting grabbed up. Would you want to risk coming here? Yeah, they'll eventually clear it out. Maybe you may serve 5, 10, 15 days of being detained and they may clear it up. Might only cost you a few $100 or a few $1,000s to hire a lawyer to help them along the way in clearing it up, that your family may have to wire you from a different country. Or perhaps you get sent home and all of a sudden you done something that's slightly wrong and now you're banned from coming to the U.S. for life. Would you even risk all of that? And the idea that it can't happen is insane. It could happen. It absolutely can and is to some folks. Will G says Vladimir Guerrero Jr. might get profiled for wearing a Toronto Blue Jays hat. Yeah, look, wearing sport athletics clothing has been a part of gang culture, even when I was a kid. In Chicago, by the way, wearing red was a gang color. But the police couldn't legally do anything to you for having it on because there are people who just like the Bulls and wear those colors as well. But now we're making it clear that we can at least deport people or grab them simply because of tattoos and attire. Like the channel says, Jamie, spiritual, medium. Thank you for the super chat. All right, let me go back to the box. I had a lot of super chats come in. Thank you, by the way. Thank you for supporting the program. And continuing on with Dencal, I think, wait a minute. I hit Arsha fine. Good evening, Arsha.
Hello.
Hey.
Hi.
So
happy Monday.
Yes, indeed, before it almost expires here. But folks are saying this man got due process. What say you?
Which man? The gentleman behind you. Okay.
A lot of folks are saying he got due process.
I don't know who those lots of folks are.
MAGA.
Well, the interesting thing is, if we go back to however many weeks ago, the actual Trump administration admitted that they made a mistake.
Administrative error. They did say that. Yes.
Yes, they made a mistake. They shouldn't have done it. We're going to wash our hands, though, because, oh my gosh, there's nothing we can do. But interestingly, because, we're in the shock and awe phase of like blowing shit up, that there's so much shit that happens on a daily basis with this administration that now all of a sudden they can claim on television or in articles or whatever that he's a criminal, and people forget the truth of, yes, we admit that we made a mistake and deported a person that shouldn't have been done that, shouldn't have happened. It is a amazing tool that Donald Trump and his administration have, because if there's so much shit, if there's so many balls flying, they're never going to remember the one,
I don't, but you said they admitted that they made a mistake. I question whether they made a mistake in deporting him. I mean, they admitted it's an administrative error, but go ahead.
Well, they admitted that they saw that he was not to be deported by a immigration judge.
Okay.
Fearing for his life. They admitted that part.
I believe they knew that when they deported that guy, and they just assumed they could get away with it. Because only way.
And I am 100% with you, Tim.
Yeah.
They didn't give a fuck about him. They were hoping, he would just get, forgotten in all the stuff.
Which means it was not an error.
Yes. So what I want to say is, for all of the human beings in the United States, one, I was very surprised and happy that the Supreme Court on Saturday was like, no, you cannot deport anybody that you have in Texas that are Venezuelan without their due process. That is unconstitutional. And for the Supreme Court to side with that, given the conservative and liberal, where we're at, I was very happy that they decided to go with the law. But what I want to reiterate to people that think this isn't going to affect me because I'm a citizen, there is a 20-year-old male sitting in Florida. And again, there's so much shit happening that it's too much to read. But there's a 20-year-old male. He was a passenger in a vehicle. The vehicle was pulled over for a traffic violation. It wasn't anything criminal of any sort.
Okay.
ICE came, took the young 20-year-old because he didn't have an ID on him. Do you need an ID on you when you're a passenger? No.
No, you shouldn't.
But they were going to deport him. He was claiming he was a U.S.-born citizen, born here. His parents, who brought to the judge his birth certificate of showing that he was
I think I've heard of this. I think I heard this case.
No, this just happened last week.
Yeah.
The judge and the courts found that this document was legit. I still won't release him, even though the judge said so. So to all my brown people, I don't care. I mean, I'm biracial. People think I'm Puerto Rican. They think I'm Brazilian, whatever. Bro, I am so terrified at this point. Should I be carrying? Should I be carrying my birth certificate, my passport, my ID?
Well, here's my advice. And my advice is simple. Right now, at least under the Trump administration, until this stuff cools over, I don't advise, particularly, I mean, I don't even advise white Americans, but certainly a brown or a person of color, avoid international travel. I don't care if you've been born in this country and your great grandmother was. I would say avoid coming or going from America.
Tim.
Yeah.
This guy was a passenger on a U.S. road with a friend. He wasn't even traveling. I mean, he was traveling.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is it increases the likelihood of you. I mean, yeah, you could have some shit like that happen, but it's far more likely to happen at customs at an international port. So I'm saying, as far as travel is concerned, like I wanted to take a Carnival cruise. I'm not fucking with that right now because I don't want to take a risk of that happening.
I'm thinking about buying a wig so that I can look like Ariana Grande.
She can get it too. I mean, remember they deported Cubanos, and they tend to be a little bit more white and Venezuelan. So that wig ain't gonna save you.
And that's the thing I don't necessarily. Marco Rubio used to stand for something, and now he's just he is a disgrace. Especially as a Cuban. Parents that immigrate, left a fascist communist government. He used to, talk about human rights and how important it was around the world and the United States, supporting that. And now he's just like,
Well, he is doing what his constituency wants. I mean, Marco Rubio has a constituency of MAGA, and MAGA wants what's going on. They want this, so he's doing what his voters want.
I will just say that I believe he was once upon a time a real Republican, but he's been poisoned. It's kind of like survival of the fittest, kind of like what some of these senators and everybody are saying is like, we're so terrified. And I will like to say to all those people in our government that we vote for, if you don't have the balls to stand up to the Constitution and your constituents, then just retire. Just say, you know what? I'm a pussy. Sorry, actually, pussies are probably more powerful because I've had 2 babies come out of mine. So anyway, just say I'm a weak ass human, and I don't have balls to stand up for what my beliefs are. I'm so over this whole like give them a pass because they're scared. You know what? You're a grown ass human.
Well, speaking of balls, Major Boo on YouTube, you got a fan. Says my sexy wife is on Happy Easter Sweetie Pie. So you got a fan over there on YouTube. But
he's probably a spammer. I don't believe any of those people think I'm sexy. I'm old.
You can be old. Remember,
I mean, I'm sorry. I am a 50-year-old fit female, so I will take that. Thank you. Thank you, YouTuber.
You can be old and sexy. Remember Blanche on the Golden Girls? Blanche was getting it in. So you can.
Wait, I'm an Angela Bassett. Let's just put it that way.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Or a Halle Berry. Or a Halle Berry.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Anyway.
But
wait. I got one more thing to say. Because I'm parked on the side of the road so I can have a conversation with you before I go home. I am a Catholic. Okay. I chose this subscription. Today was a day where, Pope Francis passed. And I want to say that his biggest message, being a Jesuit, he got rid of the Pope Mobile. He wanted to do all the things. He didn't dine with it separately. He dined with all the people in the Vatican. He lived in a hotel his entire time. But the refugee and the migrant, for all of you, for anyone who subscribes to being a Christian, remember that the Holy Family were refugees because King Herod was going to kill all of the boys. And the strangers let in Mary and Joseph
Mm.
So that is, I believe in my heart of hearts, like I've never been a Pope fan, but, but I do believe that him sitting down with trans people, him washing the feet of Muslims, him trying to have an interfaith relationship, him calling the only Christian church left in Gaza every single day at 7 to pray with them and ask how they are.
Well, I'm hearing Will G on YouTube said that Trump is likely to handpick the next pope. You think there's any possibility of that?
Well, for one, I think that the gentleman needs to watch Conclave to understand how it happens, because I can guarantee you, Donald Trump is not going to be in the room where they cast their vote. You need to be a cardinal,
No,
and that's not going to happen.
He ain't in a room with the Supreme Court either, but he making shit happen. I mean, there's ways of getting there's ways of getting in contact with people in that room.
No.
Okay.
I don't think you know that they sealed the doors, right, where nobody can leave and nobody can enter.
Okay, I don't know all of that. I got to move it on, but hopefully you're right. Hopefully you're right.
Anyway, don't forget to help thy neighbor and carry your ID, people. So
that's crazy.
Love you, Tim.
All right,
Love you, Tim.
appreciate it.
All right.
By the way, if they don't want, even if you got your ID, if they want to get your ass, they'll just pretend like they didn't see it, throw you in the back of the car and throw your ID in the bushes, like I said, right now is a great time. If you do not like brown people, it's a great time to be in law enforcement, because nobody's going to hold you accountable. So even if you do pull over somebody and you're trying to find out if they have a legal right to be in the country, and they pull out and show you passport, sir, have passport. Take the passport and throw that shit in the bushes, and then just take them out and do what handcuff them or whatever. It's not like anybody's going to really listen to what they say from that point on. So, I mean, there's just no accountability. You can really do a lot when you don't have no accountability with people. And right now, there's a lot of that. Looking in the comments before I go back to the box, real quick, someone asked me in the comments, we were talking about Abrego Garcia, somebody said, well, why don't you show his hand? On the screen behind me, this is what Trump held up as the hand of Abrego Garcia. I don't, now, some of my cameras are not showing, because it's such a really bright photo. They had light on his hand, and I guess he's a very light person, so his hand is reflecting light. Looks like on his pinky, he has a picture of a skeleton. Looks like there's a cross on his middle finger. I guess the next finger after that has what looks like a smiley face with 2 X's. You may have seen that symbol in the Purge movies. People were wearing masks, smiley face with 2 X's through the eyes, and then looks like what amounts to a marijuana leaf on the index finger. I think that's the fingers, I'm getting them right. So he has a tattoo on each finger. Does that denote MS-13? I do not know. Now, right above those symbols, have the letters MS-13 are across his hand. That's not on his hand in real life. That's what folks were suggesting when Trump showed this. It looks like it's superimposed. There's no way that typewriter font of MS-13 that's on his fingers in the picture is actually on that man's hand in real life, because you can see the tattoos are clearly faded. Why would you? I mean, the MS-13 lettering they put on there is clearly fabricated. And most likely, if we ever see Abrego Garcia again, that's not going to be on his hand. Now, Trump, maybe even MAGA to some degree, will say he had it removed, but that MS-13 part, that's not going to be on his hand when you see that guy. I guarantee you that's not on there. They wrote that above it, to try to denote, well, see, these tattoos indicate MS-13. Why did they do that? It just looks like they're trying to make up a lie about the guy. Is having a marijuana leaf, a smiley face with 2 eyes X'd out, a cross and a skull on your hand, are those MS-13 symbols? That's what looks like is on his hand. The letters MS-13 are not on that man's hands. And you can see that in the picture. It looks like they literally typed it. Remember Sharpie Gate? I'll go to the box next, but If for some of you folks remember Trump's first term, they had a scandal called Sharpie Gate, where Trump was trying to predict the path of a hurricane, and he was trying to alter it from the actual path predicted by the different weather systems. There's usually about 10 or 15 systems that dictate which way a hurricane is going to go. That's why you see all those little lines, different systems do. He actually drew his own path on there. That's what this looks like. Sharpie Gate. It really looks that way. That's not on that guy's hand for real. That's why she is the best, and that's why I love her. And she is speaking from the heart, and she is great, says Major Pooh. I like Arsha Fine as well. Going back to the bod. So we'll try that one more time with Dencow. I've been trying to bring up Dencow, and it's just not letting me do it for some reason. Dencow, good evening. This is a good example of TDS. How, Chris Toy Baller? How is this TDS? We're covering the tattoos. You think that should not be covered? Do you think these tats are on this man's hands, Dencow? Good evening.
No, they've actually showed his hands already, and they don't have that MS-13 on his hands.
So why the hell would they do something this outrageous?
Because they got to tell MAGA what to think. I mean, they can't just imagine it on their own. They got to know what to think.
I mean, is there any...
How else are they going to know that this guy is MS-13 unless they tell them exactly what to think about it?
Yeah. Let me just ask you, we're just speculating here, but do you think this guy is actually MS-13?
I believe that he did have some ties with them before, because I'm pretty sure that was originally the reason why he immigrated, was to get away from them. That was part of his immigration thing. So, and then they said that he was, that they were, trying to attack him. So yeah, I think maybe he was one of them, and he wanted to get out or whatever. And then the next thing you know, he tried to escape to America. But now he's got these things on his body. And everybody's like, oh yeah, obviously he's, MS. Like, obviously he's not, because if he was, then they wouldn't have had to move him from the, from the prison and all of that stuff. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me.
Why do you think so many folks, particularly MAGA, are suggesting that this guy has received due process? They are adamant that there's no missing due process for this guy because he already received it.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, if he had due process, we wouldn't be having these conversations. Like, it would be that simple. We've got judges that have came out and said there's no reason for him to be deported. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like. It's like we've come to a situation where we just got to take MAGA's word for everything.
Yeah,
we can't listen to the judges that say, we can't even listen to the Supreme Court that said he needs to be brought back. We gotta listen to MAGA. That's it. We can't listen to nothing else.
Well, it really ain't even MAGA. It's Trump. That's it. I mean, Trump is king. If Trump says it, it shall be done. It's coming from Trump.
Right, but now he's got them taking on that role. Like, MAGA reacts. I mean, I don't like.
Where are you going?
Let me move away from that, because I just don't know how we got to the point where somebody can say, well, yeah, they had due process, so fuck them. I don't know, like, how do we get there that we have people that have they don't have no proof. They can't show you any documentation or anything. They just say he's had due process because Trump said so. That's it.
Well, he's in the comments suggesting that Abrego Garcia did have an asylum case, and the courts denied his asylum claim.
Well, then, if that's the case, why would the Supreme Court say bring him back? He's not explaining, like, what the hell is going on. Trump told you that he had an asylum case. He told you that judges said that he's MS-13, but they can't show you shit.
Yeah. Well, they showed the knuckles.
Yeah.
They just showed the knuckles. I guess that's supposed to mean something. I'm just telling you, they put the knuckles up there.
If that's the case, let's use just regular logic. Because we know that the Supreme Court wants to go along with Trump. They want to go along with him.
I don't, you know something, I normally say that, but I think he is slowly but surely losing two of them. Amy Coney Barrett, because when they don't vote his way, he personally attacks them. So, and he's sending MAGA after them. I think Amy Coney Barrett has received some death threats. So he is starting to slowly lose at least them two, him and what is it, Roberts? I think Roberts also. So if he loses Roberts and Barrett, say it again.
But Roberts, he wants to, he's in charge of the court. So I think, he's got to be real careful because he doesn't want to be known as the guy that destroyed the representation of the whole Supreme Court.
Legacy.
He's gonna go along with the stuff, but you got to make it legit. You can't just be out here saying I showed you some tattoos of the dude's finger when they got all of the information. The Supreme Court has everything from every court, and they said bring them back and give them due process. So if they said come bring them, give them due process, that means that they know that he hadn't got due process.
I mean, the thing about it is, as Trump's spokeswoman stated, I believe they could bring the guy back, give him due process, and then deport him. I mean, just bring him back, get a court to say that this guy's asylum claim is denied, and then just deport him. The only difference is they would not be able to deport him to El Salvador because the court has ruled he can't go there. But you would have the legal right to deport him to everything from Guantanamo, I guess. Well, I think they got banned from doing that too. But I guess you could deport him if you could find another Hispanic country that would house him. You could deport him there or whatever. So they could have a legal right to deport him, but they chose to deport him to El Salvador, knowing ahead of time they were going to throw this dude in prison. I mean, that to me falls into the category of them.
You know why their fighting is so bad?
I think it's lawsuit.
Because every other person that's there would have to get the same due process. They don't want to do it because they know all of those, the vast majority of those people were sent there without due process.
Yeah, but you can't give them due process if you don't know who they are. So even if El Brego comes back, unless El Brego starts snitching and being like, well, Fernando was in there too. I mean, the thing about it is everybody that they sent to that prison, everybody doesn't know who they are. Let's say you're a 20-year-old who followed the caravan and you came to the United States with the caravan, not necessarily with your family, anybody. There may be no one who's put a missing person report out on you. I mean, so there are probably people that are in that facility and their family, if they have them, nobody knows where this person went. I just know they went to the United States for a better life. I haven't heard from them. They don't know where they are.
People know who they are. They have their names and information because remember, they're under contract. We sent them there under contract. So we know who has been sent there.
Yeah, but they're not telling you that. The Trump administration knows. They're not telling anybody.
That's what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. They understand that if Garcia gets to come back and get due process, they're going to look up everybody else that was there and make sure that they got due process too. And they don't want to do it. If Garcia comes back, the list of who they sent out there is going to disappear. Suddenly, we can't find the list. I mean, that's what's going to happen is we can't find the fucking list. It's under a government contract. What do you mean it's going to disappear?
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, but I don't think that you can disappear a contract, the federal government that's paying a whole nother government. Like, everybody's not going to hide that stuff.
Well, the notion would be we paid them to house 300 or 600 or 1,000 migrants. We didn't say who they were. We just gave them a contract, and when we send hands over there, they're going to keep taking them until we reach 1,000. Right now, we got 300 of them over there. We don't really keep track of their names. I mean, they can come up with a million excuses. MAGA's going to buy that.
Yeah, but is the Supreme Court going to buy it?
What can the Supreme Court do otherwise, though? They can just keep kicking and screaming and saying, bring them back, bring them back, bring them back. But, I mean...
Are they sending more? Supreme Court told them yesterday, don't send another one of them people over there.
They were in the process of doing it. I heard there was...
They was in the process, but guess what? They turned their ass back around.
Well...
Because it was them people who was driving the bus, it was them people who was in charge of that bus who said, look, I'm not about to be that dude, because all of them people at Nuremberg, all of them people that said I was just following orders, guess what? They ass ended up tossed up.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about it is, I think it's pretty clear that there's some wrongdoing here. So yeah, just following up with, well, I was just following orders and doing what I was told. No, you're treated. It kind of reminds me of A Few Good Men with Nicholson and Demi Moore and Tom Cruise at the end of the movie, The Two Marines, where one of the guys was kind of wondering, well, we just followed orders. Why are we getting discharged? And the other guy told him, we knew what we was doing was wrong. I mean, yeah, we knew this was wrong. That's why they discharged us. Like, we knew it was wrong. So, I mean, yeah, I think a lot of people throughout government.
You got MAGA. I could see MAGA reactions. One of them damn guards during Nuremberg. I can see him at Auschwitz right now. Talking about, I'm just saying, you know they was guilty because they said they was guilty.
Auschwitz.
Bro, MAGA reacts, he down for whatever.
Damn.
He down for whatever. He like, look, they was guilty. We know they was guilty. And then when you say, how do we know? And then you say, well, how do we know? Because they got sent away. That's how we know.
What do? Reach into the oven and pull out a little piece of skin. See, it's a tattoo. You can still see it. This was on his forearm. This little piece right here. This was on his forearm. Here's a little piece of the crown that's left. Reach into the oven and throw that shit back.
All you know is that he seen the video of them going into the oven and said that's why we know they guilty. We seen it.
Man, it's crazy.
It's horrible, man. It's horrible that we got American citizens that are just saying like, a couple people, I know it was wrong to send them away and everything, but we gotta do something. Trump said today that we can't give these people due process because there's too many of them.
Yeah.
Just think about that. Think about that. The president of the United States said that we can't give these people due process because there's too many of them. We wouldn't be able to get rid of enough of them. That is insane.
I mean, the obvious issue is if all of a sudden he starts going after Americans, if people are willing to accept there's too many, quantity as a reason to not give people due process, that could pop. I mean, let's say, for instance, there's Black Lives Matter riots all over the country, and you go around and round them all up and accuse them all of setting fires and burning and looting cities. Even people who might have just been out there walking, you just grab it. Well, there's too many of them to give them due process. I mean, you can do that to anybody. If we're willing to accept it with the immigrants, that quantity gives you an excuse for due process because there's too many people, then yeah, that could apply somewhere else. Because during the George Floyd riots, there were literally thousands of people all over the country, if not the world, by the way, but all over the country protesting. Just go round them all up and say it's too many of them to get due process to.
Yeah, I mean, when you have a situation where everybody agrees that it took them too long, but when Biden said, okay, well, let's do this thing, well, we get more judges, we get more people to process these people, it's unacceptable because he's actually trying to do what's right and say, okay, let's process them faster. Yeah. When somebody says we're incapable as the most powerful, as the richest country in the world to give people due process, we have admitted that we're incapable of doing what's right by our people.
Before I let you go in the comments, BBN says we don't owe them due process. The Constitution is for Americans, period. Now
they haven't read the Constitution. If that's what they think, they don't know what the Constitution says. It has nothing. It doesn't say anything about you have to be American. It doesn't say anything about your status. It says if you are in this country, you get due process, no matter who you are. That's what the Constitution says.
Yeah. All right, then, Cal. That's the way I have always known it as well. But they seem to have a difference of opinion. But thanks for coming through, man.
All right, take care.
All right, you too. And yeah, I always use the example over and over again that let's say a woman is trying to get in this country illegally. She swims across the Rio Grande, and just when she's climbing up on the banks, she's looking at the boots of a border security person or a member of ICE or something like that. And it's just her and him out there in the desert, and he decides to have his way with her. If she has no rights, he can get away with that then, right? I mean, because that's what we're suggesting, that if they come here, they have no rights. I mean, you just pop them in the head, whatever you want. Some folks are suggesting when they have no rights. I don't believe that. I don't believe that if you come to this country. Listen, if you were fighting in World War II and you were downed, if you were a pilot fighting in World War II and you were shot down over enemy territory and they captured you, you actually have rights. Even as an enemy combatant, you have rights. There's things they are not supposed to be able to do to you. So I don't know why we're suggesting that folks who came in the country illegally have no rights. Even folks in wartime that are actively trying to kill the other side when they get captured, they have rights. And by the way, there was a judge that even stated that we gave Nazi combatants better treatment than we're currently giving these immigrants. Told that to the Trump administration a week or two ago, that we actually gave the combatants from Germany better treatment, better due process than we're giving these folks right now. Because we are sending them to a country where we know ahead of time they're going into maximum security prison, and we are literally paying to house them there. So it's hard to suggest we have nothing to do with it. Well, we're just sending them to their home country. We have no control over what they're doing. Well, you know when they get there, they're going straight to prison. You know that, and you're still sending them there. And then you're also paying the country to put them in prison. You're paying the country to run the prison. So the idea that America's not involved in it, America's not culpable, doesn't make any sense. The money we're giving them shows we're culpable. And as I stated, we know ahead of time, before we even put them on the plane, on the other side, once you land, they're putting you in prison. So we already know it. It ain't something they're doing by shock or by surprise. We know it. And even though they did it, we're eager, because the Supreme Court is trying to stop Trump, but we're eager to send more people over there so they can lock them up too. We're eager to do it. They're literally having to force Trump not to do it. He wants to put more of these immigrants in prison. There's nothing there to suggest they deserve to be in a maximum security prison. These folks, I think they said like 75% of them have no criminal history in America or El Salvador. So why are they in prison? Just like with Abrego Garcia, we talk about tattoos and stuff like that. There's nothing on that man that denotes being in a maximum security prison. He don't have anything on his jacket for that, here or in El Salvador. Becoming a terrorist or cartel member should get your citizenship taken, like Shamina, a UK-born Syrian who joined ISIS, now UK. I agree with that, Ed. If you become a member of like ISIS or Al-Qaeda or a terrorist, yeah, I agree with that. Or a cartel member. I 100% agree that if you're actively involved in a terrorist organization or something like that, you should lose your citizenship, or you should lose your ability to be in America. The problem is once you give a person citizenship, that's different. But if you're over here on a green card, if you're over here on a visitor's visa, yeah, I agree. Running with those groups, you should lose that. But the problem is making terrorists out of groups that are not. Under Trump has made MS-13 something that they were not before he came along. He's made them into that. What I don't understand is I mean, look, I know a lot of my MAGA folks are not going to agree with this, but why aren't the white supremacist groups considered terrorist outfits? They show up walking down the street with signs and shit like that. People, they're terrorizing communities too. People getting the hell away from them as well. They have a far longer, more extensive history of committing mayhem than any of these people do. How did they escape it? I mean, especially the folks with the white hoods on, they literally were hanging people. Why? I mean, how did they escape a whole century of not being denoted as a terrorist outfit? That doesn't make sense. MS-13 got moved to the top of the list over them. I think there's some bias in play based on what I'm seeing. There's no way in hell MS-13 should have been over them when they actually have everything from bombing churches with kids in them and all. I mean, they have all of that on their resume. How are they not on the same list? MS-13 cannot go and get a permit and protest at City Hall, but they can wear the white hoods and do it. They can. Some don't seem right about that. When they have a documented history of literally committing acts of mayhem, bombing people's homes and churches and facilities and literally taking lives. And they're not on the list, but MS-13 is. Before I move it on, let me look in the comments here. 100 years removed. That's not true. I don't know what the name is, but it hasn't been 100 years since they've done that stuff. I mean, Martin Luther King has not even been deceased for 100 years. It's been a lot less than 100 years. And also keep in mind, unlike MS-13 with all of the bold tattoos and stuff we're naming, those groups, like the supremacist groups, they do a lot of their stuff in secrecy. If MS-13 members, we're talking about people's knuckles and back tattoos and shit, one thing that's different between them and, let's say, the supremacist groups, they'll admit what they stand for. Some of the folks, like the Triple K folks, who might actually be your local sheriff or your neighborhood attorney, or whatever, if you catch them without the mask, they're going to lie about what they belong to. So when you say 100 years removed, it's a lot more of a clandestine outfit than MS-13 is. MS-13 is out in the open. KKK has always kept that shit hidden. They never admit it. So it's a big difference. But I don't see how they didn't make it to that same list that MS-13 is on. That doesn't make sense to me. The shit they have done to innocents also. Yeah. All right. Fair enough. Anyway, folks, I do appreciate the 70,000. I didn't solicit as much tonight, but thank you, folks, for tuning in. Rough program, a lot of rough shit happening with these folks, and it's going to keep us polarized because some folks just want them to leave. They don't give a damn if they're being mistreated. They don't give a damn if they don't get due process. They just want them gone. And if throwing them in prison gets them gone, then they're willing to settle for that. And then the other side is far more sympathetic to their cause, maybe a little bit more understanding that all of these folks that have come here are not coming here to commit acts of mayhem. So you're going to have, and by the way, alter ego, yeah, appreciate that, alter ego. Thank you for the hat mustache, appreciate that. You're going to have a divided constituency on this because some folks are like, get them out, no mercy, Cobra Kai style, sweep the leg. And the other side is, bleeding heart liberals that are very sympathetic, indicating that, look, they came from a third world developing country or whatever the case may be, give them a chance. And there's very little middle ground. I think MAGA wants all of these folks gone, and the liberals want a large portion of them to stay. So I actually have lost a lot of hair. I don't know what that means, but somebody put that in there. Anyway, I do appreciate you folks this evening. If you enjoy this type of dialogue from all sides of the aisle without any concern of the host trying to dictate how you should speak, because we don't block, ban, or censor anybody, feel free to follow the program if you're on Instagram, if you're on TikTok, subscription if you will, if you're on YouTube horizontal or YouTube vertical. Nevertheless, I do got to step away. Emmanuel, shout out to you. Thank you for that hat mustache. Do got to step away, and I will catch you guys tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. And what did I miss in? I do Anita. What does that mean? Oh, you guys are talking to each other in the comment section. I just want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats before I get Trump out, non-military and 34 count felon. The people like him. He's one of the most popular presidents we've had in a long time. So it's gonna take a little bit more than 34 felonies and the fact that he didn't serve in the military. He is a very well-liked president on the right side of the aisle, even more so than Reagan, who used to be the main guy. Nevertheless, catch you guys later. See you tomorrow.